Who invited robot voice?
Maybe if she was more polite.
Maybe. All right, count it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1922, Cornucopia of Comics Conversation of 2023.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, come! Comic Geek Speak, comic Geek Speak, comic Geek Speak, comic Geek Speak, comic Geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes, this is...
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Matt.
I'm Shane Kelly.
And I'm Chris Everly.
Well, welcome one and all to the show, and it is indeed a cornucopia of comics conversation this time around. And joining us for said cornucopia, Matt, for the first time in a bit. Matt, how's it going, sir?
It's going pretty well. We had our office holiday party or luncheon, whatever, today in New York City, so I got to see more than New York than I wanted to, and then always fighting to get out. But I have learned the secret is you take the path from Jersey.
Yep, that's what I always do.
It's a hell of a lot less headache. So other than that, things to be pretty good on my end. How about you guys?
Pretty good.
5 by 5.
Mm-hmm. Nice to be sitting down with you gentlemen and talking some comics as we approach the Christmas season. And the day that we record this is day 8 of the Festival of Lights, the Hanukkah, as it were.
Levy Poo, your voice is a sonorous, warm glass of eggnog and a blanket.
Much appreciated, Chris. That was a nice combination of words right there. So I truly appreciate it. Alrighty, and before we get started with this episode, a reminder, as always, that you folks over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak help these proceedings occur. And we thank you so much for all that continued support of the show that you give, especially as we get festive and we think of things that we've been thankful for over the year. And
air our grievances.
Exactly. We air our grievances. We look at our gifts, and our gifts are you, the listeners, most definitely. For as little as $1 a month, you can go ahead and continue to support the show and keep us afloat, whether it be these remote episodes and hopefully eventually back in studio. I know that Shane and Chris are going to be heading to the studio in about a week or so to survey
Murd as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there too.
Murd, excellent. And if you want, like you can Zoom me at one point so I could feel like I'm there, but I'll be knee deep in Florida at that point, doing my best not to experience much of Florida.
We shall Zoom you, but cover the phone so you can't see anything.
Good. Good.
I don't know the production value that you guys have, but I would love if you could say that opening about for a little $1 a month, but kind of reenact. I forget what the actress's name was that was on All in the Family that played Gloria. But when she did about
Sally Struthers.
Yeah. So about feeding the kids and basically reenact that, but talk about it as if you need to help these kids listen to Comic Geek Speak. and then use that as the promo for it.
I thought you were going with Edith. We were all going to go, oh, March!
and of course, my brain also goes to TV, VCR repair, and all the other commercials that she was a part of back in the 80s with that stuff. Oh man, I don't think anybody's dying to be a TV VCR repairman at this point. In fact, I think they're just dying. But anyway,
I'm pretty sure
Murd has the last
Murd would
VCR.
appreciate it. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Mm-hmm.
My VCR gets sick, I'm going to be desperate.
I do wonder if they'll ever bring those back, because you can buy record players.
Oh yeah,
are big right now. So I wonder if we're like 10 years away from VCRs coming back.
I think the main difference, though, Matt, is that records actually still have high fidelity sound, while VCRs don't have high fidelity anything.
Who knows what the
Tape
technology will
snap.
be?
Limitless. The medium has its fans and its
Oh,
purpose.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
Oh, 100%, 100%. There were even HD VHS for a very short amount of time. There was a special system you could buy called HD VHS that took regular VHS and an HD version that you could connect to your TV, I think, through component cables, right
Wow.
before Blu-ray became a thing. So,
Levy Pooh, you're taking me back to my days in the 90s working in video stores. Please be kind. Rewind.
Did you get the laser? I mean, I know we're getting off topic here, but did you guys get the laser discs when they were out?
No, I never had a
No, I
laser
never had
disc,
laser discs.
Yeah, I
but
never did either.
but through one of Pants's friends, I have DVD burned laser disc copies of Star Wars Empire and Jedi,
mhm.
which were original way before they were ever tampered with for the anniversaries. Where anything, I mean, I like some of the stuff in the anniversary ones. Don't get me wrong, but I have original versions of all 3 movies from those laser discs.
So you don't have Han doing this?
Yeah, no, I've got Han shooting first.
I got to be honest with you. If they went back to, if they restored everything the way they originally were, the only one I would not want them to touch the changes would be Empire, because I think they were subtle enough, especially in Cloud City, to really open that up. That
was
think,
cool. Yep.
I mean, it didn't work in episode 4 with Mos Eisley when they kind of opened it up, but I think in Cloud City they did enough to give you a bit more idea of how big Cloud City
I agree
is.
with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That I don't
agree.
think they did anything too much that you're like, this kind of ruins the movie by
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Adam's gonna, I'm sure, disagree, but I just think Empire, they did the right thing with what the little tweaks that they did in that one.
I'll agree that I found the changes in Empire least offensive.
Mhm. I just frankly wish that they would give us the opportunity to choose for ourselves. Whether it be just releasing both versions and one the unspecialized and one the special edition or whatever, like have them both be available so that people can choose for themselves. That would be nice.
Yes, absolutely. And Lucas isn't directly involved anymore, so he doesn't have to be the kibosh on the whole thing.
There's got to be some kind of written in that contract agreement about that. I can't see why they wouldn't have released them by now,
And the holiday
especially
edition?
since Jedi's. Well, that too. Jedi's anniversary was last year, so now you got 4 more years until Star Wars comes up again for its 50th.
Yeah,
I wonder,
Right.
I wonder what the changes would have, because wasn't there a rumor, or maybe it was factual, but that they were looking to do the same with the Indiana Jones trilogy, the original one.
Ooh,
that they
I
were
never
gonna
heard
do.
that. Wow.
And then I think South Park did something where at least they took credit that they kind of mocked that idea, and then they
Yes.
decided not to do that.
Huh.
With I was gonna say, to kind of segue into a conversation here, I liked one of the things I'm looking forward to is, I guess this month the DC Vault is opening up, and they're going to give you the alternate ending of Death in the Family.
yes.
With
yeah.
Jason Todd survives, and
Mhm.
I ordered
that's
that.
one of the top 5 must read Batman storylines. So that's one I have to have. I got to go out and get that, because I feel like that's now part of the set. When
I agree.
If I want to reread that, I got to read that alternate ending
Yeah.
as well.
And that is now just straight up out, because I did see one of our listeners on the super group post his copy. So I think that that issue is now on the shelves where people can check that out and experience what that original ending was going to be. I mean, we already know what would have happened if Jean Grey had lived, as Marvel put out their version of the original ending of the Dark Phoenix saga. And now we get to see what would have happened with Jason Todd. I'm still kind of glad it happened the way it did, quite frankly. I don't know if that story would have had nearly as much of an impact had he
Oh, I
survived.
don't think it would have either. No, I don't think it would have.
So yesterday morning, I was doing my morning run, and I was thinking about this, and I always like to kind of review my top 5 Batman stories, and it occurred to me that had to be the ending, or the one that was out there. That had to be.
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I put that in the top 5, which it would be Year One, it would be the Cult. Then I would put in there Death in the Family. I would add in there who else was I thinking of? Tower of Babel. Oh, and Venom. And I look at those, and aside from the Year One, those other ones, I think they have specific moments where Batman is beaten, not necessarily like fisticuffs, but like he's mentally brought down, and he had some type of failure. So even in Tower of Babel, he's so great at these contingency plans where they wound up backfiring.
Mhm.
Of what happened. But you look at Death in the Family, there was a big ripple effect after that with the way he started to fight crime, and he got more grim and he was more brutal after this. So I think it had to happen to evolve Batman, because if Jason wouldn't have died, then obviously other things wouldn't have happened, like we wouldn't have had Tim Drake. But I think he needs to go kind of on that journey to get that type of a loss to start coming back and realize, hey, you know what? I do need a Robin with me to balance me out, that I don't go down that route.
Yeah.
It was only a few years later that they introduced Tim Drake. It was what, like maybe like 4 years, 5 years after?
Was he 90, 91, 92, maybe even earlier?
Well, it was a cameo initially in year 2.
I believe
and
so.
That came out, I think, in the late 30s, in like 430s.
Yeah.
And I think he was officially released a couple issues after that.
Right. Yeah. It did very much go with the darkening of Batman that, began with Dark Knight Returns and all that jazz, and trying to make the character a little bit more gritty and grimy, and I don't know if you would quite say a street character, but like less of the holy Houdini Batman and more of a down to earth, relatable character.
Speaking of that, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, maybe that's kind of the moment where he kind of became more adult. So you have the the Dark Knight Returns. I mean, that's a pretty adult book, and I'm not gonna crap on any of the stuff going up to when Jason died, but to some extent that changed him enough, and it kind of made it seem more. I heard I was listening to something they were talking about Stranger Things, and they said one of the things that kind of made the last season more interesting is now a lot of your characters that when they were kids, the first couple, now they're more adult to some extent. I mean, and I think that's kind of the journey that Batman took at that point, where he became more of an adult type of, I don't want to say character, but just in that kind of same vein.
Yeah.
I'm just going to comment. Ian reminded me with his outburst to Holy Houdini that this semester I'm teaching a course on the history of popular culture in the United States, and we're in the 60s, and I show them over 3 days 3 television episodes, one from the Twilight Zone, Shrek, and Batman. And Shane recommended that I just show the first 2-parter, which was the Riddler. And it was interesting because a lot of the kids had kind of heard of this version of Batman.
Right.
A couple had seen it. It was interesting. What's that?
They hadn't experienced it.
Most of them had, and it was interesting to get the reaction. I mean, you had the Batusi in that episode, of course, but when we talked about it afterwards, I think a lot of them were entertained because they just found it so diametrically different and goofy compared to the versions of Batman that they're accustomed to today. So, like, one kid was like, "Why is he wearing like this leotard?" Like, or and so however you put it, but so it's just interesting to get, because these are 17, 18-year-olds, and a lot of the media they're used to is very fast paced. Like, they found Star Trek like interminable. and I showed them Sitting on the Edge of Forever.
Oh, okay.
And a couple of them liked it, but a lot of them are like, it's just too slow.
Yeah, that episode's really dramatic and just slow, but it is that's one of the most dramatic episodes in the whole series.
Yeah, and Twilight Zone, I showed, of course, the Shatner with the Grellum on the wing.
Okay.
And a lot of them were like, they kind of liked it, but they don't like black and white.
I looked up Tim Drake's first appearance. The last part, or it was Batman 436, year 3.
Okay.
Year 3, that's right. Yeah, year 2 had that was a different one. Yeah.
Created by Marv Wolfman and Pat Broderick.
So that's literally 12 issues after Death in the Family. So that was not a very large amount of time.
Yeah, you know what, you're right, because year 2 had was it the
Reaper?
Yeah,
it's even less than 12 issues. What was that issue? 428? 428 to 436. It's 8 issues.
7?
Yeah.
Is it 427 that was the cliffhanger?
Yeah, 427 might have been the cliffhanger.
You are right. 8
No,
issues.
that was the very first issue of Batman that I ever got.
Mhm.
That I found. Do you
Wow.
remember that boot barn that they have now? And at one point it was the movie theater across from the Berkshire Mall.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, at one point they had like a bunch of different shops there, and it wasn't even a comic shop. I was just walking through, like, it was almost like a Goodwill type of thing, and I just was like, oh, what's this issue here? I know Batman, I know Robin. I didn't even know that Dick Grayson wasn't Robin at the time, and I remember reading this going, what the hell is this?
Huh?
And I do want to call out a shout out to Ed Lute, who was the one who posted on the comic forums his copy of From the DC Vault, the original version of issue 428, which he got in his hands. So,
Which this is the first time it's ever been printed like this, right?
yes, this is it has quite literally been sitting in a drawer somewhere until now. And then they decided to finally put it out. I'm amazed that it took them this long. You know,
well, I am too.
Yeah.
It seems like something that I would have almost like within a year had released in one form or another, just being like, okay, now that we've had it all settle in that Jason Todd died, here's what could have been. Yeah, here's what could have been if he had lived and released it that way, but they didn't do it.
I don't know if I would have done a year, but I could see maybe when Red Hood was coming back, or when Jason Todd was coming back, see if there was some type of an anniversary and then tie it into there.
Yep.
As kind of, hey, this is, you know, in a multiverse, this is what did happen instead of the one that we're following.
Yep.
Yeah. Very good.
I kind of expected that too.
Yep. Well, following along the lines of deaths, by the way, since the last time we recorded, Comixology is now dead.
Oh,
the standalone Comixology app is no more. As of December 8th, they officially shut off access to the app, and everyone is now forced to use Kindle as their reading tool. There is no more standalone Comixology app. There's still a Comixology landing page on Amazon for for buying comics. And it still has like all the special deals and whatnot, and there is still even a Comixology Unlimited that is separate from Prime Unlimited and all that stuff. But the actual Comixology app is officially dead on both Android and iOS as of mid-December. Kind of saw it coming when Amazon bought it, that eventually they would be merged into each other, but it honestly
survived a lot longer than I thought it would when that Amazon purchased them. I thought that would have been done years ago.
I would agree with that, Shane, frankly. And I think it was a combination of things, sheer momentum and existing contracts that kept it going. Yeah. Plus just how much Amazon actually really cared about integrating comic books into their experience. Because right now, I opened up the Kindle app in just to see how it felt on iOS, and it felt almost exactly the same as Comixology felt in its new iteration. There was a major change to the UI of Comixology about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and that is essentially the experience that you get now when you try to read a comic book inside of Kindle. There's really no difference there. But that in and of itself was a pale comparison to what Comixology used to be, with its own storefront, being able to buy books directly from the app. Page turning worked a little bit differently. Selection turned a little bit differently. And now it's Amazon's sandbox, and we live in it, whether we like it or not. So
I'm not really happy with how any of the apps, Marvel, DC, or Amazon, organizes their books and allows me to organize ones I've downloaded, what I want to look at, what I've read. It's horrible.
One thing that I found fascinating is that when Amazon killed the standalone Marvel app, before they got rid of Comixology, all of your Marvel titles actually transferred over to Marvel Unlimited. So whether you have a Marvel Unlimited app or not, if you bought Marvel comics via Comixology, or if you redeemed comics via the marvel.com/redeem for the digital codes.
Yep.
Those are all inside of the Marvel Unlimited app now, so you don't need a subscription to view those comics.
I just realized that the other week when I was trying to look at something in the Marvel app, and I couldn't get back to the Marvel Unlimited app side for a while, but I kept seeing all these books. I'm like, what is? Oh God, these are all the ones from somewhere else.
Funny enough, they also still exist within Comixology. So that slash app, Kindle or whatever. Like it's not like you lost access to comics that you bought there.
Right.
Because they also made the conversion over because they didn't have a Marvel standalone app anymore. So digital comics just as confusing as buying them physically in many different ways. Main difference is that I don't have boxes and boxes and boxes of digital issues lying around my apartment, which would be the case otherwise. And it's the only thing that stops me from going back to buying physical issues on the regular, more than likely.
You don't want to buy regular physical issues too much, Ian. They're $5 a pop now.
Yeah.
Wow. Exactly. Yeah.
Slowly inching their way up to it.
Mm-hmm.
If there was no DCBS that I could order, even the little bit that I want physical, to order from there, I would just be digital all the way. I wouldn't even bother.
Oh yeah. And I mean, same could be said for discounts on trades, because I do buy trades, and I have bookshelves to put them on. But if the price point were ever to go too insane on those, and mind you, at times they are, but you can usually find 40%, 50% discounts, whether it be through in-stock trades, DCBS, or Amazon, or Barnes & Noble, or any of those choices. You can usually find them for a relatively steep discount. And if it ever doesn't wind up turning that way, I'll have to make a decision one way or the other. But
speaking of that, I got my Excalibur volume in the mail yesterday.
Nice.
I cracked that open to look at it. That's quite sweet.
Very cool.
So glad
how recent a reprint is it, Shane? Is it very recent?
It's really recent, because I want to say a month or two ago when I was looking, I couldn't find it at all anywhere.
Okay.
And then after we recorded the top 5 X-Men episode, and Ryan Drost had said, "Hey, it's here," and I'm like, "Oh my God, I just found it as well." So it's got to be really recent.
Well, those are delightful stories. They're so much fun.
Yeah, it's the first standalone one-shot square bound.
The
first 11 issues. And then after the 11 issues, there's some standalone stuff and some older stuff too. It might be like Captain Britain's first appearance and a couple other like one-off little things that are in it. It looks really neat.
You might want to really enhance your reading pleasure, Shane. You might want to reread Mutant Massacre first.
Okay.
And then from there, go right into it, because Excalibur is a result of the Mutant Massacre.
I think I have a trade of that. I think I have a Mutant Massacre trade. I'll check. It's a good point.
Yeah, well, glad that our top 5 episodes spurred you to buy some X-Men and get back to the old stuff.
I've been wanting a copy of some kind of volume of the Excalibur stuff, just the first few issues, for a long time. And when it was out before, and I'm like, "Nah, I'll get it. It'll be out. And then it disappeared. I'm like, "Oh crap."
It was funny too. After that episode, looking at the responses on Facebook, plenty of people responding, and we appreciate anybody who listened to their top 5s. But seeing that my number 1 for that episode, a spoiler for the episode, was Beast, and then seeing a lot of people be like, "Yeah, can't wait to see you catch up on current X-Men comics," and whether or not you're still going to feel that way about Beast. Like, and I've read some things, and Dark Beast may not be the darkest beast anymore.
Wow.
So things have happened. Experimentations. Apparently, he was keeping a pen of partially reformed Wolverine clones for a while, so he could experiment on mutant DNA. Like,
wow.
So now he's
Darker Beast.
He's Mr. Sinister, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
But my favorite part is that there's an issue of X-Men coming out in the not too distant future. It might even be an issue of X-Force, where using Krakoan technology, because at one point Beast decided he no longer needed his Avengers self. Like it was keeping him back, like his heroic side. So when he rebuilt himself via Krakoa, it was no longer part of that. Apparently, Furry Beast is going to be back. Mostly as a way to try and take down current Beast. So maybe we're gonna get the fun-loving, bouncing friend of Wonder.
So there's another version of Beast running around.
There will be very shortly. Yes. Okay. Along with Dark Beast and regular Beast and slightly less Dark Beast and Blue Beast and Gray Beast and Beauty and the Beast.
Medium roast beast. And,
exactly.
That's who the Grinch was eating.
Yep. Comic books. You gotta love
Levy
it.
Pooh, I gotta make a caveat here. Your beard has never looked sexier. Look at those gray streaks there.
Yep.
Man.
As more and more of them come in, I'm like, okay, eventually there's going to come a time where I'm going to decide that I'm going to shave this thing off. It's not anytime soon because I don't want to know what's underneath. But I guarantee you, when I do, I'm going to look at least 10 years younger than I currently am for at least the first, couple of months after shaving it, because that is the effect that always takes. It's like,
majestic beard, sir.
Yeah.
Majestic beard.
You'll be able to walk by people that I know, and they'll be like, "Who the hell is that?"
I have noticed. It seems as though my beard now is basically just dark here and down this side, and just about everything else is gray. So for some reason, it's like an upside down J.
Yep, that's what I got right here, and there's a little bit under here, but everything else is gray.
Love it, absolutely love it.
I can't say I love it, but it's there.
Yeah. So I wanted to point out something that I got actually because of my mother. My mom and her husband John went to Paris recently, and she came back with The Adventures of Blake and Mortimer: The Time Trap.
Nice.
They went to a Parisian bookstore and found it, and they got it not only because of the form factor and whatnot, I figured that I'd like it, but it was one of the few in English titles that they had in France, and very much in the style of Tintin, but not Tintin. It's called The Time Trap, and Professor Mortimer is bequeathed an old house in France by a former adversary, Milach, the evil genius of SOS Meteor's fame. Along with the house is a letter inviting the Briton as the only man of worthy intellect to discover a fabulous invention left behind by the departed. And this was I guess 1,275 euros, or they always put the comma in between, so I don't know whether to call it 1275 or otherwise. But nonetheless, yeah, this is now what
That's
I
cool.
have. Edgar Pierre Jacobs is the writer, and The Time Trap. Good stuff.
Good old mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely beautiful artwork on the inside too. Really, really good stuff. Look at this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice classic Tintin-esque adventures.
I feel like we're overdue for a Black Sod volume.
Oh,
because there was supposed to be a part 2 to that one that was last released a couple years ago.
That's a good point. I think it won more awards recently, but it's won like all of them, so it doesn't really matter either way.
Masterpiece.
Yeah. I wonder when our next plus set is going to happen. I'll have to research that a little bit. Meanwhile, how about we talk a little bit of comic book movies to get things started?
All right.
Spoilers abound here for the Marvels, so if you have not seen the Marvels in theaters, you may want to tag out. As the Marvels was released on November 10th, 2023, and it is officially the lowest grossing movie in the history of Marvel Comics. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's not an achievement, however, because Nia DaCosta actually has now made the most at the box office for a black female director in the history of U.S. cinema. So even with the lower amount that this brought in, currently at a gross of $274.8 million. Well, the budget was, and the box office is currently at $202.5 million. It did achieve some there, and it was number one at the box office. It did not reach the numbers that other Marvel movies have made.
Well, I saw it on the Sunday the weekend it came out. Besides me, I think there were 6 people in the theater.
Yeah.
What was the number one the weekend it came out?
I believe it was the first weekend, and then it dropped off after that, if I remember correctly.
I knew after that. I didn't think it was the first weekend. I thought I just got edged out by a movie or two.
Let me look at that for comparison's sake. Yeah, you might be right.
To me, it's really hard to keep comparing what Marvel movies have been coming out the last 2 years with what the original like 10 or 15 did. You're never going to hit every single one be this #1 box office smash.
Of course.
The way those first 2 or 3 Captain America, Iron Man stores.
It's been 15 years.
Yeah. I think if the studios have that kind of an expectation, they're sorely mistaken. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I went and saw it and I had a pleasant time watching it. I thought it was fun. It wasn't the best thing in the world, and it didn't reset the Marvel universe in any way, but it was still fun and entertaining for me.
Yeah.
Can I just you guys know, because I said beforehand, I didn't see the movie. I don't hate watch. I'm just not interested. So I
sure.
But there's a lot of Marvel stuff since Endgame that I just like. It's not. I don't really care about it, so I'm not gonna watch it so I can say, but Shane, to some extent, it almost sounds like you're making an excuse, and not specifically with the Marvels, but just kind of with Marvel, because they do have some like Guardians earlier this year.
That was fantastic.
Very good. You had some, what was it, Doctor Strange last year that almost got $1 billion. I think if I could give there's a lot of I'll just focus on the theory that I had for this movie when I saw it was going to come out, and I had a feeling it wasn't going to do well. And I think part of that was I don't think Captain Marvel is as popular as sometimes they want you to believe. I think that's one of the reasons. I think another one is 2 of the other main characters you had to watch Disney Plus shows to watch.
Oh yeah.
And it seems as though Ms. Marvel, I heard it was good. I wasn't interested in that character, so I didn't watch it, but it wasn't that well. Not a lot of people watched it. So now you have 2 out of the 3 main characters who are Disney Plus. So you're assuming everyone has watched those shows to now have them kind of front and center. I also heard that the villain was kind of generic, but and you're also kind of coming off of, with if you were watching some of the stuff on Disney Plus, a series that had Nick Fury in it that was that seemed like a lot of bait and switch type of thing of what you were going in expecting and what you wound up with at the end. So just going into this, I kind of had the feeling it's not going to do that well because there was too many things already against it. Plus, I think there's a little bit of I don't think there's superhero fatigue, but I don't think everyone is also watching everything on Disney Plus that's going to be able to follow everything building up. I think there's going to be a little bit more a la carte where I'll watch this, but I'm not interested in that, so I'm going to skip it. But there's no guarantee that this isn't going to affect something else that you're going to watch, and you're like, well, I don't understand what's going on. And I think that's this was a good example of relying too much on people watching Disney Plus shows to fully kind of see this movie. I don't think any of the other ones needed that.
And frankly, I will agree with you on one part that yes, I do. I would say that it's not superhero fatigue; it is content fatigue more than anything else. Yeah. That when you have and Marvel's already learning from this, as we can see from next year's slate, whether they're intentional or not. There's only going to be, I think, 3 movies out all year that are Marvel related, and one of them is Deadpool. And the other one is a freaking Sony, Spider-Man weirdness.
Madame Web?
Madame Web.
There's 2, isn't there? Because Kraven.
Yeah, Kraven and Madame Web are both set to be out next year, and frankly, I could care less. But what I think people really did experience is the content fatigue of, oh, this show came out. I haven't had time to watch that yet. Oh, this has something to do with that. But marketing was another issue with this, because I think that although the first trailer for this was super duper fun with the intergalactic and whatnot, it didn't really give away a lot of what the movie was going to be about, so that people who were not familiar with the new characters, along with Carol Danvers, didn't really get to know those characters via the marketing. And I think that had they maybe done a little bit more of that, then things possibly could have hit a little bit more. But when it comes down to it, this movie, and just to give my thoughts on it, is a fun enjoyable romp that is not game changing. It is not something that you're necessarily going to have watched Ms. Marvel nor anything else in the line in order to enjoy, but you have to at least be a fan of Captain Marvel. And if you're not, then that's perfectly fine. I think that you could easily leave this movie being a fan of Ms. Marvel without actually having seen the Disney Plus show. And I hope that there were some people who felt that way after it was all said and done. But the movie itself is a really good popcorn romp with some fun action scenes, some beyond ridiculousness with the Flurkins that I was A-okay for in the actual scenes that they were taking place. But Flurkin be Flurkin, your mileage may vary. But overall, I left the theater happy, and the end credits scene, while holy shit when it happened, is also not necessarily a game changer in that way, because we've already seen some of the multiverse stuff going on, and for it to happen this way, then so be it. But it was fun. It's not a $1 million movie, plain and simple.
And that's how I feel in a very similar fashion, Ian. And Matt, to your point about saying like something like Doctor Strange made all this money, that's great. It did. I was terribly disappointed in it. I thought for all that it was thought to be, or how I thought the trailers portrayed it, I kind of thought it was a letdown. Mm-hmm. I agree that The Last Guardians was probably the best movie they've put out in 2 years, easily.
Oh yeah.
In my mind.
No Way Home?
That was just before that. Okay. Was the No Way Home and then Guardians are the last two movies that were, like, to me, box office smashes for Marvel. Everything else has been kind of mediocre. Yeah. I've enjoyed most of it. Quantumania, I really didn't. But I agree with Ian. I thought this was just a fun popcorn movie, and it was just something fun to watch in an afternoon.
Yeah. So one of the criticisms that I heard about kind of where Marvel is right now is with the Infinity Saga, those seem like they were events when you were going to go see them. Mm-hmm. And going with what you said there, Shane, I do agree, because I was thinking, since Endgame, what kind of movies seem like an event? Well, Guardians Volume 3 seemed like an event because that's the last time I see this group together. So that seemed like an event. No Way Home, because you were getting, even though we didn't know you were going to, well, we presumed you were getting the other Spider-Men in there, we at least had those villains coming back from the old movie. So that felt like an event.
I think Wakanda Forever had an event.
I think the only thing is, so I wound up watching that on Disney Plus, and I don't care for that version of Namor. And it's one of these where I think they did a good job. I think if they were in a spot where if you recast T'Challa, that's going to change things, and you're going to get pushback. If you don't, and you went the direction they went, you're going to get pushback.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as good as the first one, but I think with the pieces that they had to work with, they did a good job. And you're right. I do think that was kind of event, because they were going to be touching on T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman in that. So I do think that seemed like an event, but I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that would have come out. I liked Multiverse of Madness, but that's exactly what Shane said. I think the reason why I like it as much as I do is because I read everything about what was happening before I saw it. So I already knew all those theories, like we were going to get, this is how they're going to introduce mutants, was not going to happen. So my expectations immediately lowered, so I could go in there and just enjoy what we got.
We call that Matt style viewing, by the way. Reading everything before you see it.
But I think if they would have, I think too many people had that expectation. All the stuff I heard about what's going to happen, could happen here, had X-Men coming in, and and maybe in hindsight they thought that might have been the door to do it. But I don't think there's been too many. I think that might have been the only one that seemed like an event, and it wound up not. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to think of ones that have come out that it made me go. I didn't see Thor: Love and Thunder. I don't like the
you
more
can skip
campy.
Yeah, skip that.
Skip
stuff.
it.
I like when Marvel's doing more like, and this is going to be a broken record, but Winter Soldier, Civil War, when you can have some humor, but you have it's a little bit more serious. I think that's when they hit on all cylinders.
I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Some of the other ones, just like I heard in the Marvels, it is kind of campy and it's funny. I'm like, well, I didn't really care for what it was in the first movie that I saw with Captain Marvel, and I don't know if this is even worse than that. So that was one of the things. I just don't care for the tone of those movies.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I love the Captain Marvel character, all the different versions. So, I was very excited about the first one. I enjoyed it. This film, like I said, I went the weekend it opened on a Sunday, and I was like, wow, there's nobody in here, which was surprising to me because that's never been the case in Marvel films I've seen in the past.
Wasn't that also Thanksgiving weekend though?
No, it was before Thanksgiving.
No. It was before.
Yeah.
It was actually November 10th is when it came out in theater. It was November 9th preview day. And just double checking your what the box office, by the way, Matt, it was number 1 at the box office until that next weekend where it dropped off to, I believe, number 3. So it had a solid 8 or 9 days where it was number 1, and then after that it dropped. But continue, Chris.
No, thank you, sir. So, like Ian, I found it fun. Kamala Khan was the best part of the movie.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I hope they do a lot more with her character. A, the actress is very gifted.
Mm-hmm.
B, I love the show, and they built upon the show in the movie.
Yeah.
And like as we referenced, if you didn't see the show, you kind of didn't appreciate her family and that whole aspect of it. But putting that aside, my viewing of it, I equate to this: if I read it as a comic, I really enjoyed the comic. I finished it. I forgot what happened. I won't reread it, and I won't get the trade. And I don't mean it as a put down because I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Matt made a lot of valid points about the Disney Plus and all. I agree with a lot of that. I think for me, when I think about Marvel going forward and the different television movies that are going on, we think back to when it started. So they're using massive iconic characters, even the general viewer knows: Iron Man, Captain America, even Thor, right? And now we're getting into a lot of characters that we know and we really love. Like the She-Hulk show was amazing, but how many people really like She-Hulk though?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, Carol, like, who knew Carol Danvers before they made her like a major character in the films, right? So I just feel like, for me as a viewer, and I agree with Matt, like Winter Soldier to me is like, that's like the elite in these films.
That's the pinnacle.
But I think what I'd like to see for my own viewing satisfaction is everything feels kind of adrift, where in the first iteration, everything was building towards Thanos. Everything, like virtually every film in some way was clearly going in that direction.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Kang, they haven't really used him very effectively yet. He's only appeared a couple times. I am like slogging through Loki season 2. Like episode 3, I was like, this feels like it's 3 hours long. Like
see, Loki season 2 for me was easily one of the best things that they put out in recent memory.
Well, I have to finish it, so my judgment's out. But I found season like episode 3 like just stopped dead the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was just me. But my again, back to my main point is that there's so much great stories that they're still drawing upon that we all know as readers. But I think for the general audience, first of all, you need the Fantastic Four as soon as possible.
That would be nice.
Because that's I think that'll put a massive shot in the arm of all this. Use them as like the anchor of a whole new storyline universe. You need Doctor Doom done well. And clearly they're going to bring the X-Men in too. So I just feel like all the stuff they've done since Endgame, some of it I really loved. Some of it's like, that's okay, but I enjoyed it, but it didn't like blow my socks off. But I just feel like they just haven't. They need that for me. They need that overarching theme they need to move towards, and it's just really not there yet. I loved Kang and Quantumania. It wasn't a great movie, but he's just kind of like. Plus, the general viewer doesn't know Kang.
Yeah.
Not that they really knew Thanos either, but they really developed Thanos really well, and they just haven't done that yet with Kang.
No.
Like, he's the guy like in.
They've made him almost. They've made him almost goofy with all the iterations and various ways they've done it. He's a little bit goofy to the general audience.
Well, and we have to see, because they're obviously going to do Avengers Forever. That seems to be where they're headed.
Well, that may or may not happen.
Well, I know.
We'll see.
Well, I was going to ask, do you think some of that? Because I agree with you, Chris. I think if you're really going to sell the multiverse saga, you need to have, if it's going to be Kang as the primary villain, you need to have him sprinkled in there more, because they kind of did that with Thanos. Do you think it's because of Jonathan Major's personal things that are going on with him that they've been holding back?
No. Not
or
yet.
if that would not have happened, they would have
probably not, because that's very
a
recent.
More.
That's exactly it. Yeah, this all started coming down after the Marvels had already been filmed, and after Quantum Media had already been filmed, and after Loki season 2 had been filmed. So they already made decisions on where these movies were going to go long before the situation with Jonathan Majors came down. Whether or not we wind up pivoting actors, or whether we wind up pivoting to Doctor Doom as the villain in the future now, with everything that's gone down with Jonathan Majors, and boy oh boy, does it not look good for Jonathan Majors right now. Then we'll see. But Murd, I want to make sure that we get your take on what you thought about the Marvels before we go any further here. So your impression, sir.
All right. Well, let me begin by saying that I didn't see the movie until well into its theatrical run, because it was released at kind of an awkward time for me. The Christmas buildup was just beginning. I was actually appearing in a stage production the opening weekend, so I was getting to that for a while. I didn't get to see it until December 1st, 3 weeks after its release. And by that time, just building on Chris's experience being one of like 6 people in the theater during its opening weekend, by week 3, it had already gone out of the main theaters here in Berks County, PA. I had to drive to Lidditz, which it means something to Matt and Shane, but it's a longer drive. And I had to, I went to see a 9:30 p.m. showing on a Friday night, and I was the only one in the theater.
Oh, wow.
This was at the end of a long working day and on the cusp of a long working weekend to come. Mm-hmm. I needed some entertainment, and I wanted to be entertained, and I'm afraid this movie just didn't do it. I mean, I'm glad that it was a fun ride for a couple of you. To me, it was not a terrible movie. It was, the phrase that sticks in my mind is excruciatingly mediocre. Just the action, the pacing, the whole gimmick with the quantum entanglement of their powers and the constant zipping back and forth in space whenever they use them simultaneously, it just made the whole thing harder to follow. I didn't think that the characterization was particularly strong. I mean, I'm glad that Carol Danvers, they at least took some of the edge off of her. You know, they softened her a bit and made her more fallible, which I thought was an improvement over the first movie. But still, I didn't feel like she was evolved enough in this movie. Kamala Khan was just kind of came off as annoying, whether she's shrieking in alarm or fangirling out, or they had a chance to do something interesting with her, because there was that brief moment when she was disappointed in in Carol Danvers, her idol, who she's been hero worshipping for years, when she allows all those Skrulls to die or whatever, and so we get a few seconds of her looking pouty and uncertain, but then nothing further from that. My favorite of the 3 is easily Monica Rambeau, and we really didn't get much build on her either. We got some closure for her unresolved feelings of abandonment, with Carol Danvers leaving for space and never coming back to her. So that was something. And I appreciated that there was at least a little bit of a learning curve with her relationship with her own powers, and that we're told, hey, you know what, sorry to tell you this, but I've actually never used my powers to fly before, and I'm kind of terrified about it. And so that was good that she used those powers a little wonkily at first, albeit successfully in the end. And that said, I'm just as happy that they didn't have her fumbling around with the powers for the rest of the movie. She learned to use them well to fly pretty quickly after that. It makes some sense given that she's had Air Force training and flight should come somewhat naturally to her. So, and the fact that she got to be the one who makes the big heroic sacrifice at the end. And so hopefully we'll get to learn more about her in future projects, but I think we all know full well that she's going to be eclipsed in whatever those projects are by the other characters with whom she's marooned on the other side of that hole in reality, as seen in that mid-credit scene, which was not quite as surprising for me as it might have been. But still, it was still something of a surprise, because I didn't expect there would be a version of Maria Rambeau, alias Binary, on the other side of the wall, of reality's wall. That was something. And they
did a very good job with the Binary costume, by the way. That was almost straight out of the comics.
Yep, that was well designed, and the CGI beast with Kelsey Grammer's voice coming out of it. I applaud them for not making poor Mr. Grammer at his age spend 4 hours in the makeup chair for that one little scene. The beast looks better in CGI anyway.
I agree.
And no doubt Kelsey Grammer produced a better performance for having been able to do it at his own ease in a recording booth someplace.
That's what I thought too.
One of the podcasts I follow is the John Campea show, and when I was watching him talk about it, that he was pissed off that the last trailer for the movie gave you hints that maybe this had something to do with Thanos. That was it Ben Dar or Dar-Ben?
Oh yeah,
might be like a disciple. So that got him jazzed, and he's like, nothing to do with Thanos. And he said the other thing is if you saw Spaceballs, you basically have the plot to the
yeah. And yeah, I'd heard those rumors. I was just as happy that Dar-Ben wasn't just like a replacement Thanos, nor was she trying to be. She at least had a clear motivation, but beyond that, she was just a total non-entity. And yeah, in a very series forgettable of Marvel very movie forgettable. non-entities. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah,
and just most of the action of the plot just. I mean, Ian pointed out the ridiculousness of it all and how he was poised to enjoy it. I just found myself incapable. I mean, and that's as much to do with me and my state of fatigue as anything else. I get the feeling, and really in this modern mediascape of ours, there's always kind of a fine line between the sublime and the ridiculous in whatever media we consume, and each of us must draw that line for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just that this movie ended up falling on the wrong side of that line for me more often than not. Yeah, the whole business with the flurkins be flurkin and just gobbling people up and then vomiting them back out in Central Park or wherever they were down on Earth. That was dumb. And then going to Planet Schmigadoon and where everyone sings instead of talks, and Carol Danvers gets to be a Disney princess for 2 minutes, and it's like I said, I'm kind of glad to see her character softened that way, but still that was also kind of inane. I wasn't buying what they were selling. But by the same token, just showing how wholly subjective this is, I did get one brief flash of enjoyment just before Monica made her big sacrifice. Suddenly the screen split 3 ways, showing each of the Marvels in one little window, and then Monica's her pupils turned white, and it felt very much like the opening moments of a late 70s disco era music video. Like I was expecting her to break into Donna Summer's Last Dance with Carol and Kamala as her backup singers, and that would have just given me purest pleasure.
Yep.
It's just, we each have to choose our own flavor of inanity, I suppose.
Yeah.
And this one just wasn't pleasing my palate, is all I can say. And I thought the storytelling in general was legit kind of messy. So
fair enough.
It was not a very enjoyable ride for me. I'm glad it was for others.
But before you say what you need to say there, Shane, you basically just gave my exact thoughts on the second Shazam movie. So I'll just I'll leave it there. It's like what didn't hit for me for Captain Marvel didn't hit for you for Captain Marvel. So we'll just go ahead and leave it there on that one. What are we gonna add, Shane?
I'm split between you and Chris and a little bit of Adam, because I couldn't stand the Flurkin part. I thought that was really dumb, but I liked the interaction between the 3 Marvels and using their powers at the same time, and I enjoyed the singing planet. And I also thought the villain was forgettable, and was that even a thing to bother with? Because they could have had the whole movie without her in a lot of ways.
I did hear.
I agree with you, Shane, that I liked the interaction between the 3 Marvels too. It's just I wish there'd been a little more downtime for them to do that instead of just bouncing from one silly situation to the next. And I also think there was a little too much of Kamala's family, because they were comedy relief, but they took it a little bit too far.
When they got up to
became more of a distraction than an enhancement.
When they got up to the space station, I'm like, that doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, why are they even there?
Yeah.
I did hear that this movie kind of played like it was a sequel movie to a movie that didn't come out. Like that they almost needed another movie to lead you into this. But then again, that might be part of the Disney Plus stuff.
That's the Disney Plus stuff.
That's the Disney Plus stuff.
It's a Disney Plus stuff, but it is also that we get Captain Marvel in the 90s. We get Carol Danvers in the 90s. We get her show up in the Avengers movies
for a brief minute.
And then we get Carol Danvers here. And what I will say is that because they had to flash back all the stuff that happened on Hala, our main villain of this, Dar-Ben, who is played by I believe it's pronounced Zoe Ashton, Tom Hiddleston's currently engaged to her in real life. So she's engaged to Loki in real life. But what I didn't really like about it too much is, or it could have been fleshed out better. That is she did all this horrible stuff to Hala. Here's a flashback to her doing all this horrible stuff to Hala in about 4 minutes. And that's why we're angry. And that's why we're really peeved. And it was all stuff that happened in between the first and second movies in that time between the 90s and now.
Thank you, Ian, because I thought I was having a memory gap here. I didn't remember her fighting the Supreme Intelligence and all this bad stuff happening. So it legitimately never happened in any Marvel project.
Yeah, it legitimately never happened in any Marvel project. They filled in gaps here where really I feel like had we, and I know we're talking about content fatigue, but had we gotten some sort of, Hala experience on the Disney Plus side rather than Secret Invasion, which was, there. And mind you, the Skrulls that we get in this have very little to do with the Skrulls that we got in Secret Invasion too, or the Sam Jackson for that matter, and Nick Fury. It's a completely different experience, but I think we would have actually been better suited to have a Kree Skrull war type of thing going on in Marvel's Disney Plus side than Secret Invasion to lead to this. That would have made a lot more sense to me, but.
Well, and I've enjoyed some of what the actors who play the Skrulls do, but I have always thought the Skrulls in the movies are very much toned down, ineffectual compared to what you would read in the Kree Skrull War.
Well, because they have them like in a diaspora. They're not.
Yeah,
they don't have their own world anymore. Right. They're just scattered around. It's a totally different. Yeah. It's nothing like the Skrulls in the comics, really.
I did want to ask for all of you who now seen it, what did you think of the way the Supreme Intelligence looked? Not what happened, not the little gap but just to see it like that, I was like,
honestly, Shane, I don't even remember.
That was seriously cool. I do remember, Chris.
I thought it was very cool.
The Supreme Intelligence mostly manifested as like human actors, just projecting itself into Carol's and other characters' minds.
Yes.
There's like mental avatars of the people that person knows. So I was very happy to see the big green potato.
Actually, that means so.
I agree as well. They executed that greatly. I just wish that they had. And maybe we needed the Supreme Intelligence as the actual villain of this movie rather than Dar-Ben. Because yes, explaining the ramifications of what happened and Hala's lack of resources, which is straight from the comics, by the way. There have been multiple instances where the Kree homeworld has been suffering, and the Kree have tried to restart their race one way or the other, whether it be stealing resources or whether it be themselves trying to bioengineer themselves into new forms in order for the Kree race to continue. That's all straight from the comics. It's just, I don't know, that part could have definitely been executed better. Not that I didn't enjoy Dar-Ben, it's just, it was lacking. I did love the actual effect of stealing the resources though, like with the water pouring in through the portal and whatnot, and the light and all that. Like that was really damn cool. We just needed more reason for it.
Yeah,
she's gone from suck to blow.
Yeah,
I did have a joke that apparently the movie has gone from suck to blow when I saw that the box office was dropping. When I heard about the Spaceballs being used as the plot.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, that Brie Larson is an Oscar-winning actress.
Oh yeah.
She's a very talented actress. I would like them to do just more with this character.
Yes.
She's a very important character in Marvel in general. So I hope that they don't abandon her, the character, and
they're not going to.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to, because they need her character for the Avengers at this point, because I don't think we're getting Chris Evans back anytime soon. We're certainly not getting Robert Downey Jr. back at any point. We may get Thor, we may get Hulk, but we need at least some of the tentpole characters that people know for the eventual Avengers movie that we're going to get. Hawkeye, and actually
Black Widow.
Yeah, well, I didn't even mention my favorite scene in this entire movie outside of the Flerken. I'm sorry, I fucking love the Flerken. Pardon my French there, but it's just it's my, I don't know if it's my Animaniac side of me that just like the scene with the music setting and like people like don't run away from the Flerken, let it eat you. That there's just something about
it was comical. It just made no sense.
It made sense for the tone that they were going for in the movie, but I know it's not everybody's favorite. But the Young Avengers ending with Kamala Khan, sitting down, and essentially the Young Avengers initiative, that was brilliant, and I cannot wait to see if that's going to be, whether it be Disney Plus or
I hope
move
so.
where we're going to go from here with Kate Bishop and the rest of the Young Avengers.
I do kind of feel that seems more like a Disney Plus series than a movie.
I would kind of think.
The idea
hope.
of
Yeah, that could be either way. Yeah, it could honestly be
Young
either way.
Crusaders, but I could see the Young Avengers popping up. I would hope so. In the Avenger movies that are coming up and be like
Yes.
like part of it. But I think like a standalone thing. I don't know if I see that as a movie as opposed to more of a Disney Plus series.
I think a 6-episode series would serve it better before
I
they're in a
agree.
movie.
I would
You know,
agree with
that
that as
whole
well.
building the team kind of thing.
Build the team, their
Yeah.
interaction,
Go
the
one
dynamics.
episode each
Yeah.
character, and then
Yeah.
Yep.
from there.
I am 100% down for that. Yes, I would be a-okay. Whatever way we get them, I want the Young Avengers because it's going to give me more Kamala. It's going to give me more Kate Bishop. Hopefully, we'll get some Patriot action in there. Like, yeah, well, let's get the team together and figure something out.
That actor's had some
Cassie Lang is a
issues
must.
recently as well.
What's up, Matt?
I think the actor who would play the Patriot, I think he's had some legal issues as well lately, so they might have to recast that guy as well.
Well, hey, they've done it before. They'll do it
Yeah, I
again.
know. I don't think his part was that big in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
It
that
certainly
you'd
was
be like,
not.
wait a minute.
Exactly.
They
That's
already recast,
Kurt Russell's
casting.
son, isn't it? Isn't that Kurt Russell's son?
No.
That's John Walker.
I said,
Oh.
yeah, I was talking about Patriot, not
US
Agent.
Isaiah
Um,
Bradley's grandson, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yes.
I brain farted there. My apologies.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell's doing great. He's in the new Apple TV Plus Monarch series, which I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but it's basically a prequel to the Godzilla stuff.
Maybe I would say that is a series to watch. I went in. That's on my list here of potential topics. But I went in because I like the idea that Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell were playing the exact same character.
Yeah.
And then
like
once
that
I
too.
started watching, I was like, this is actually. I'm not a big Godzilla fan, but I was like, this is actually really good. In
Yeah.
fact, I think maybe Disney Plus should be looking at Monarch going, okay, so this is how we should be writing some characters in some series.
It's certainly possible. Yeah.
But that's on my list too, Matt, for the same reason. Initial reason was because I like that they're playing the same character.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to use father and son anytime that they're able to make it happen, rather than hiring somebody and putting on prosthetics to make them look like somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, hey, they've got father, they've got son, boom, let's make it happen. So works out nicely.
Ian, have they announced when Daredevil's coming out?
No, they have not.
No.
And there's major rewrites going on right
Yeah.
now and reshoots. Like they weren't happy with the way that Daredevil
really?
was coming out.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So
Really?
one of the things that came out is he wasn't even going to suit up until episode 3 at all.
Yeah.
And that supposedly a lot of what's driving this is that Karen and Foggy get assassinated in the first episode. So that's why they weren't supposed to be there. Now, I don't know, since they're going to do massive rewrites, if they are going to bring in those characters, because people have been clamoring that they want them in the series.
Also,
But I did
none of that has been confirmed at all. Like that's all internet conjecture, whether that was the way it was supposed to happen or not. But
yeah, that I'm not, so that might be. I know about the suit up because a couple people I watch know people that are working on that show and did say it's since the series is being rewritten, this is something because they were saying that why would you have Daredevil not suit up until like episode 3 when that's people have been claiming. But I did just see that D'Onofrio came out and said that basically it's going to be more in tone of what we're going to be getting from Echo. Now we haven't seen Echo. It looks like it's going to be closer to the Netflix series. I mean, one of the scenes, a guy's getting shot right underneath the chin, which you wouldn't see anything like that I recall on Disney Plus. So maybe it's going to be a little bit darker and closer to Netflix. So I think if that's the case, then it should be good.
Well, what I would say to that is, again, don't fuss at something that isn't broken. The Netflix series is tremendous.
Yeah.
It's tremendous, especially seasons 1 and 3.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine politics and egos and all the other nonsense that goes on. But
I have to watch 3 yet.
Well, also with
I've not seen it either.
with Hulu and Disney Plus getting closer to essentially being the same thing, even though they're two separate services. Right now, if you have a Hulu membership and you have a Disney Plus membership, there's a Hulu tab in your Disney Plus. It's in beta right now, so you can watch Hulu stuff on Disney Plus. Now that you can do that, now that you have maturity settings inside of Disney Plus that you can set as a parent, you can very much do MA shows like this and within the Disney universe, quote unquote Disney universe, Marvel universe, and get away with it because you already have Hulu. So it makes perfect sense.
Well, you could do that now because I can watch the Netflix shows, but on Sophie's account, she has the limit on that. So I don't think she's looking for that, but she would not be able to do that.
It's even further though, like not because Hulu is definitely a very different thing than Disney, and like you can watch stuff on via your Hulu tab that is way more mature than anything that was on Disney Plus before now.
Well, the tone on Daredevil was so pitch perfect, and I really hope that they just build on what they did because it was so well done. Like, I mean, D'Onofrio was absolutely terrifying as the Kingpin.
Yep.
And I really hope they don't dilute that in any way, shape, or form. Just magnificent material.
From what we're seeing from these Echo trailers, I don't think we're going to get that dilution. Quite frankly, I think that they may very well have the right style for D'Onofrio in general because he is going to be showing up in Echo, and it looks like the Kingpin to me. But gotta wait and see on that one.
Yep.
I do wonder if. So I didn't. Adam, did you watch She-Hulk?
I did watch She-Hulk, yes.
Okay. So I do wonder if they're going to incorporate a little bit more, or a little CGI into Daredevil in those series, though, like they did in She-Hulk, to make him a little bit more agile.
He's bouncing around the buildings and so forth. Yeah.
Maybe. So I wonder if they're still going to incorporate, maybe that. Hopefully, they don't go heavy on it, but maybe just a little bit to give you that idea that he.
Well, Daredevil's an acrobat. I mean, that's well in keeping with the character.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, but also I think one of the things that worked great about the Disney series was just how great the actual special effects were to begin with, and without really utilizing too much on the CGI end. And we all know how dodgy CGI has turned out for Marvel, one way or the other, whether it be with She-Hulk or whether it be the spongy bouncing of Black Panther at times. Like,
I knew you were going to go to that.
It's not always a great idea to be utilizing that. But if you wanted to use it sparingly and when it's necessary, then I'm all for it. But we all know that Charlie Cox is more than capable of doing stunts already. So why not utilize what you got?
He's also getting up there in age. And
I was just going to say that was almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah, couple extra crinks in the back and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say every day I come down the steps, I sound like a band.
Yeah. Yeah, it creaks a little bit more.
Levy Pooh, I have to ask. Now, this is a very important question.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me
yes
you're not going to go see Madame Web?
So let me make this.
I'm gonna go.
Clear.
I'm gonna go. I want to see that.
I'll take the bullet for the show.
This is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. Okay, I have AMC stubs already, so like it's free. A-list, man, like it's gonna be a free showing, but it is gonna be like on a day where I have no work to do and it's 2 p.m. Like that's it. I am not going out of my way to see this movie.
So is this a case of Sony just trying to scrape every property they still have access to?
Why? Yeah,
throw it on the screen.
Yeah.
It sure as hell is.
Because it's not the Madame Web of the comic, because Murd well knows is an old woman.
Yeah.
Can I tell you? Well, you know what? Hold on. Let's give our frickin' swears for the Marvels, and then we can move on to this travesty. But Shane, what? How many frickin' swears do you give the Marvels?
3.
Okay. Murd?
2.5.
Okay. Chris?
Barely 3.
Okay. I'm giving it about a 3.45, not quite 3.5, but close enough to it. Yeah, exactly, because of the Forkin. The Forkin.
I gave that extra 0.45.
all Forkin all the time, baby. Like that's the way I feel. Like I am all about that shit. Here we go. Now, I need to show this costume in particular for Madame Web. Okay.
That's Julia Carpenter.
Is that Spider-Woman?
Yes, that is Julia Carpenter, because they are not only doing Madame Web, they're doing Aranya, they're doing Julia Carpenter Spider-Woman, and they're doing Maddie Franklin.
No, wow.
Maddie Franklin. Wow.
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson's niece.
Yes, indeed.
That's actually right side, but she's upside down.
Yeah.
But not Jessica Drew.
No, I don't. Do they have the right?
I don't think so.
They're not using Jessica Drew because of not only because of Across the Spider-Verse and all that, but I think they have other plans for the character one way or the other. And I think her rights may also be closer to Marvel's outside of animated, which falls under a whole other bandwagon. But don't quote me on that. I have to bring up another image though, which also, what the hell? The main villain of this piece is going to be Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Yes. And they decided to give Ezekiel this like weird kind of Spider-Man outfit.
Ezekiel from the JMS run, right? That
Yes.
character
Kind of looks
Okay.
like Nighthawk from Supreme Power, which is also JMS, I'm pretty sure, but that's no excuse for putting Ezekiel in that outfit.
You are not wrong about that, Murd. Now I
Murd.
can see
Good
that.
point.
Yeah, but yes, Ezekiel from JMS's run is going to be the main villain here, taking on Madame Web and a bunch of Spider Women that aren't the Spider Woman, but Spider Women.
Well, he's the main villain as far as we know. We don't know if they're gonna crowbar.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know if Moreland's going to show up or like some other strange stuff. But I'm bringing up the rest of the costumes that have been shown one way or the other of the other characters here. But I don't know. I am so over the idea of using Spider-Man characters.
Adjacent?
Yeah, exactly. Spider-Man adjacent characters and not
adjacent.
introducing Spider-Man. It's just so weird.
Well,
It is
first, I want to say the only interest I have in this movie is Sydney Sweeney, which basically means I'll just wait when I can see on YouTube just the scenes of her. Like, but I have zero. But I'm not big into what Sony's been doing. I didn't really care for the Venom. I didn't see the sequel, but the Venom movie. Yeah. I'm not going to see Kraven because I'm looking at that thinking that's not the character to me. But it's kind of like what they're doing with Batman on the CW, where they had all these shows that were like, it's Batman adjacent. Where we're going to give you all the stuff,
except Batman.
But here's the difference. That stuff was on TV for the most part.
You're right.
I mean, outside of the Catwoman film, which
the one with Halle Berry.
Yeah, the one with Halle Berry.
Indeed.
Yeah, congratulations on winning an Oscar. Here's your Razzie. For the most part, that stuff stayed in the realm of TV. And if this were happening on TV, if this were a CW show or something along those lines, I would be able to excuse it a lot more than we are releasing this. And hey, all you people that are familiar with Madame Web, all you people.
Us.
I love that Romita Junior Juggernaut story. Come on, it's a classic. 229, 230.
Yes, and this is what Maddie Franklin's going to look like in the movie, by the way. So no longer going to be J. Jonah Jameson's niece, more than likely. But I don't know. This thing's gonna have to be a masterpiece for me to actually care. And it sure as hell is not looking like it. It looks like the costumes from the Birds of Prey series from the 90s.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Is it coming out?
What else
Sorry,
that thing looks like? That the design there for Maddie Franklin. You remember when I was talking about the Spider-Man conference I went to back at the beginning of October?
Yep.
And one of the presentations was about the first ever Spider-Woman character that Marvel ever published, which was an issue of Spidey Super Stories, featuring like the lady librarian character from the Electric Company TV show played by Hattie Winston. Well, this looks a lot like that. Like 70s afro and all.
Yep. Very good point.
So I got to duck out for a couple minutes while I put the kids to bed, but I did want to throw in there. I thought it was very ballsy for them to release this trailer shortly after the Marvels, when it looked as though that wasn't doing too well. It's like, you know what? Let's double down. We're going to put out this trailer.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys.
In front of the Marvels when I went to see it.
Yeah, that just was like, after what I remember Kevin sent me the text to take a look at this, and I went, what the hell is this?
even them in street clothes. Like I have a picture here, and I know that this is probably just straight from the set, but I think this may be from the trailer if I remember correctly. Like in street clothes, it even looks like B street clothes. Like nothing looks like it should here. It looks like a fan production.
And is this coming out in February?
This is coming out,
so.
I believe so, in February. Yeah,
Okay.
Valentine's Day.
It's
for you.
usually a red flag.
Yeah,
Oh, Daredevil. I mean, Deadpool came out
that's true.
in February.
So
so
did Black
worked
Panther.
out well in the end. True.
Black
but,
Panther did, yep.
I mean, I'm not going to say this is going to make those kind of numbers, but I'm just throwing out there.
February 14th. February
All right.
14th. That is the release date for this.
Jeez.
Yep. And let me see when Kraven's coming out, actually, because
I
now
didn't even know there was. I missed there was going to be a Craven movie.
Oh, yeah.
There's been a trailer or two.
Mhm.
Watch the trailer.
That
I
has
haven't
been,
seen a trailer.
that had a trailer before Madame Web did, but because of the writer strike and actor strike, that has now been changed to August 30th, 2024. So even though that had a trailer before Madame Web's coming out because it's complete in February, and Kraven the Hunter has been pushed back to August
Released at
30th.
the very end of the summer. Okay.
Yes, indeed. Yep. I will bring up an image of Kraven if I can here. I have to word it very specifically so it actually brings me to who I want. But here we are. Okay, so and the story from this they're making it a lot more supernatural than Kraven ever was. I think he's going to have like hunter powers that were passed on from his father or something along those lines. So this may technically be Kraven the son from the comics. Yeah,
It kind of
exactly.
looks like Alyosha.
Yep.
Or Al, as he liked to be called.
Yeah, closer to that, but he's come a long way from being Quicksilver and Kick-Ass to being what he is.
Oh yeah.
If that's the one who likes to be called out, when he comes on the screen, it's going to be that Paul Simon song that plays. Call me Betty. I can call.
I heard a rumor he's in the running for James Bond.
That's been a rumor that's been circulating for a little bit, though. Although speaking of James Bonds, I am looking forward to Argyle when it comes out in February. Argyle
That looks fun. That looks like
Argyle
a lot of
looks
fun.
like a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer for that, but
Is that a story about the guy who was the driver for Bruce Willis in Die Hard?
No.
but it should be. And I've now retroactively made it one, whether or not it was or not. Argyle is the new Matthew Vaughn movie that's going to be out about a James Bond type character that was written by this writer, and then it turns out that everything this writer has been writing actually exists.
Oh, okay.
So Henry Cavill was playing the Argyle that she writes about. And then there's a whole other
Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell
Bryan
and
Cranston's in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
By the way, speaking of Die Hard, you'll appreciate this, Shane. This past Monday night, my local theater played it for one night.
Nice.
I was there.
Christmas special.
Yep. Always thrilled to see that on the big screen.
Yeah, I've gone through for the Christmas season. I know Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, but I lump it in with all the others because it takes place at Christmas. Gremlins, Die Hard, Batman Returns, Scrooged, Christmas Vacation, Christmas with the Cranks.
You've watched all these so far?
Yeah.
What about A Christmas Story?
Yep, A Christmas Story. I have to watch A Christmas Story Christmas yet, because I still haven't seen that, and that came out last year.
You know what you should watch, Shane, at some point. This came out not too long ago. It's called "It's a Wonderful Knife." It's a Wonderful Life send-off. That's a horror film essentially, where a girl finds this person who's been Scream style killing people in her small town and saves the day, and he's vanquished, and then she wishes away her life and winds up in a reality where he's still wreaking havoc.
Oh jeez.
And it's a really good like Christmas Scream movie. That's the best way to describe it. It's a lot of fun.
Shane, have you watched Rudolph yet?
Yeah, Rudolph,
All right.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will watch Miracle on 34th Street, and I will watch It's a Wonderful Life.
I watched the newer Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh, the newer one.
The one with Richard Attenborough where he's Santa?
Yep. I like that one. I think that one does very well for like 1994.
Mhm. Well, meanwhile, here's hoping the music comes through when I play this.
Great
So
Earhart
you
bird.
can't tell if my camera's glitching or not.
Like
Well,
a bobblehead.
Hey, I changed the settings on this Zoom just to make sure that that sound came through, because it is time once again, ladies and gentlemen, for Muddle the Murd. And Murd has more on what you can do to attempt to muddle him.
All right, here comes what I have. If you'd like to try to muddle the Murd, it involves asking me, alias the Murd, 3 comics trivia questions. Marvel question, DC question, third question about some other publisher. Also, they need to break down chronologically to 1 question about comics pre-1970, 1 about comics between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, and a third question about comics post-2000. You need to remember to include your answers, of course, otherwise we won't know whether you've muddled me or not. Also, try not to make your questions too microscopically detailed. Just stuff that's germane to plot, character, and all that. Nothing about like background details in certain panels, and no questions about things that are not a part of the actual story. Like commercial questions, or like advertising questions, letter page questions, physical format of the comic, that kind of thing. Unless the physical format of the comic affects the story in some way. Then just type them all into an email and email them to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com with Muddle the Murd in the subject line, where Quizmaster Ian will find them and put them into a special folder where he will then slip them out again at occasions such as this. When we do a Muddle the Murd segment, he'll ask me the questions and I will try to answer them, and if I answer all 3 of them incorrectly, you, as the submitter of the questions, will have won a fantastic prize.
Excellent.
And it dawned on me some time ago, just as Shane was starting to talk about his fantastic in-stock trades find of the Excalibur trade edition, that I don't have a prize at the ready. So if you just vamp for a moment, folks, I think I might have one off to the side.
All right, excellent. We will vamp away. Vampity, vamp, 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 vamp. What I will say is that the person asking this, I have had in the queue for a little while, and I had him starred, and I completely forgot that we actually asked his questions yet. So when I do say the name of this individual, he knows already that he was next in line, and I'm glad that he was able to wait as long as he did. We have about 5 Muddle the Murd submissions in the queue at this point, by the way. So if you want to have your questions answered in the hopefully not too distant future, please make sure to indeed submit your Muddle the Murds so that we don't run out of the queue. Nonetheless, vamping over.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Ian, for that vampity vamp vamp vamp. Now, though, at the rate we're going, though, I think 5 will probably be enough to last us at least a couple of months into the new year.
Mm-hmm.
But here we go. Once again, thanks again from a grant from the Eberly Foundation. I do have a prize here. This is one of a little packet of prizes that Chris found at a local comic sale and sent along down here. I have Howard the Duck, the complete collection, Volume 1. By Steve Gerber, Val Myrick, and assorted other artists.
Essential.
Yep, it collects Howard's first appearance in Fear number 19, crossing over then into Man-Thing solo series number 1, and then the first 16 issues and the first annual of Howard's first solo series back in the 70s. So, yep, this is, as Chris says, essential kind of absurdist 70s pop cultural reading here. This is a character who actually ran for president, folks.
And got votes.
and got votes.
Indeed.
I actually have a campaign button someplace, I'm pretty sure.
Nice.
At a yard sale. So, here we go. We're playing for Howard the Duck, the complete collection, Volume 1. So, Ian?
Excellent.
Release the Kraken.
The Kraken is being released, and that Kraken's name is Paul Lyle. And he has this to say. Hello, CGS crew. He accidentally wrote CSG, but I'll let it slide. Please find my entry for Muddle the Murd. Now, your Christmas gift, Murd. If by a fluke of fate that I do muddle Adam, please do not send me the prize. I am overseas in Newcastle, England, and that would be super expensive for Adam, and the hours of excellent podcasting are more than enough of a reward.
Oh, so that's why you tried to stop me when I ran off screen to.
Yep.
Well,
Right. So
Sorry.
next time,
Prize
it'll
for
be
next
Howard
time.
the Duck.
No, all good. Exactly. Well, now people know why they should be submitting the Muddle the Murd,
All right.
so they can get themselves some Howard the Duck action. Instead, could you give a shout out to my best mate and fellow CGS listener, Stephen Younger, who I spend regular Friday nights with in the pub discussing comics and all things geek related.
Nice.
We are definitely happy to do that. And
That's
Indeed.
awesome.
Stephen,
Go
thank
have
you
a
very
drink
much
and
for
make
listening as well.
decisions.
Oh, yes, 100%.
Thank you.
On to the questions, and tell Adam that Albania isn't an answer for any of them.
Okay. I know I can't let the genie out of that bottle twice.
Oh my God. I think that was actually, if I remember correctly, last cornucopia of comics conversation that the Albania out of the butt answer came. So job well done on that one. All right, DC pre-1970, we begin with. In Strange Adventures issue 92, what is the name of the alien archer who fights Space Ranger, changing him into an old man?
Ooh, Space Ranger. Wow.
Okay. Yep. I clearly have no guess here, so I'm just going to say Senex, because it's Latin for old man and it's just science fiction sounding.
Magnificent.
Anybody
clue.
have any guesses whatsoever?
Never read any Space Ranger stories.
Nope.
Well, the correct answer is Konda Ree, spelled Konda-Ree in the story, but on the cover he's misspelled as Kanda Ree, Kanda-Ree.
Sounds like a Kree name.
I know.
His agent will hear about this.
Indeed. All right, over to Marvel post 1970. In Avengers issue 183, cover date 1979. What is the name of the NSC agent that Ms. Marvel threatens to remove his hands if he tries to take her fingerprints as part of her Avengers recruitment before Tony Stark offers the alternative of taking her retina prints? This agent would show up again in the Busiek Perez run as a guard at Project Pegasus, who verified the event identity when Ms. Marvel, now Warbird, recognizes him from their past encounter.
Busiek.
Bless you, music.
Yep.
Yeah, no character left behind when Kurt Busic's on the job. Yeah, I have no idea once again. So
It's not Guy Ritchie, right? He's too well known. Yeah.
That was my first thought too,
Yeah.
Chris. But yeah, I figured it couldn't be. But
This is when Guy Ritchie was wearing the plaid pants in those late 70s stories.
That's his man's sense of fashion.
Yep. Sorry, I don't know who it is either.
Yeah. So, I'm gonna since we're talking about Busiek's Avengers run, I'm just gonna say Dwayne Jerome Freeman, who actually took over
yes,
Gyric's
that's
role
right.
as Avengers liaison.
Nice.
That's not right though. So Ian, what is the correct answer?
The correct answer is Agent Jenkins. Agent Jenkins is
Just
the
Jenkins.
man. Yep, just Jenkins. That's it. Last name of a fellow comic book creator, but Agent Jenkins is his name. All right. And onward we go to Independent 2000 and beyond. In B. Clay Moore and Jeremy Hahn's excellent 2005 Image Comics limited series Battle Hymn, based around a dysfunctional invaders-like team set in World War II, the proud American, Captain America analog, is replaced on the team in issue 2 by another patriotic character. What is the name of this character?
I know of this series. I picked up a few issues. I don't think I have the complete thing, but I know I picked up at least a couple at Wizard World Philly once upon a time. I read the first issue this past summer. So I don't think I've read issue 2 yet. So I think I have an excuse for not getting this, but I'm just so close and yet so far away here. All right. So the proud American is being replaced by another patriotic character in Battle Hymn number 2.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What seems like a good name for a patriotic analog?
Lay your bets, folks. Lay your bets. Will he get it?
Stranger Things.
Yes,
Lady
indeed.
Liberty.
Ooh, you are so close. You are so close. You had the Liberty right. The answer was the Defender of Liberty.
Liberty.
Wow.
Yep, that doesn't sound familiar at all. So I don't think I have read that yet, but I think I will. I'm pretty sure I have at least the first 2 issues of Battle Hymn somewhere at home.
Excellent.
Incredible. But
Paul, that was beautifully and
yeah, good stuff.
I just you had me right where you wanted me, and you let me go. You let me slide because it's Christmas, to paraphrase the Polar Express. So thank you. This is what might have been Paul, but thank you for the Christmas gift, and I hope you and Steve, I hoist a Snapple here in your honor. Good on you, Paul and Steve, and just enjoy your geek talks down at the pub. That's what Comic Geek Speak is all about.
Yeah.
I'll
hoist a mule sometime over the holiday season because I'd really love to be hanging out in that pub. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, that is definitely some good geek conversation going on there on a regular basis. So
Moscow or Kentucky?
I don't know. I'm experimenting.
Oh.
Trying to find one that I like that I can make at home every now and then.
All
I'm
right.
actually kind of pleased I don't have to add postage to Newcastle to my Christmas expenses.
Yes. Very much the case. Very much the case. Even though he submitted it back in February of this year, it very much will be a Christmas gift. So,
but I mean,
yep.
Running a little bit behind schedule, so we don't need to panic about there not being many Muddles in the queue.
You better believe it. But do submit those anyway.
Send them in. Yep, we love it.
Yep,
there we go.
Howard the Duck. That's what you're playing for at the moment.
Hell yeah. Gentlemen, before we get to other reads and watches and whatnot, I wanted to make sure that I called this out, as I was hoping to have him on the show, and maybe at some point we will have the opportunity, but as time is getting away from us, I want to make sure that we do actually send this up. Sina Grace, who I've mentioned on the show before, he wrote that Iceman miniseries over at Marvel that was really great, has a new Superman graphic novel that came out titled The Harvests of Youth. And I took a look through it, and it's a pretty interesting story that I'm gonna go ahead and bring up an image of, just so you folks can see it here on the call in just a moment. But it's a heartbreaking human story about the legendary Superman as a teenager finding his place in a dark world without losing sight of his greatest power, hope.
So it's a Smallville story.
It is a Smallville story, yes. Very much in the vein of other, Superboy stories, but a little bit more of a modern take on it, and has some Smallville vibes to it, but way more grounded and today than Smallville ever is and ever was, for that matter. And I've really enjoyed what I've seen of it. He was gracious enough to give us a review copy that I've been reading through ever so slowly, because it's been a long couple of weeks. But just so you guys can see what the actual cover of
I've seen that cover.
is. It's a graphic novel for YA, so it is for everybody essentially. Sina put this out for DC Comics, and I wanted to make sure I put the word out for everybody who may not have gotten a chance to check it out themselves. But Superman: The Harvests of Youth. It is available in stores now, and you can certainly order it up from a retailer or Amazon or whatnot, and get yourself a copy, and it's available digitally as well. So Superman: The Harvests of Youth.
Looks good.
Yep. All right. Matt,
can I show and tell something before we go on?
Oh, absolutely, Shane. Please, the floor is yours.
Oh
my God.
Look at that Tiss tank.
Oh my God. Yes.
With lights.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So this is part of the new line, I take it.
Yeah, it was a HasLab backer thing. So
look at the size of that.
Oh my God, it's massive. I hope the hell they don't make more vehicles, because I don't know where they're. I know they have a Dragonfly coming, but I don't know where. If they keep making vehicles like this, where is it going to go?
How much does that go for, Shane?
I have no idea what to even tell you on that, because that was a year ago.
Oh my God. And just, the build on it, seeing what it actually looks like in person when you showed it to us just now, Shane.
It's huge.
Oh my God. It's so articulated.
Nothing prepared me for how large it was as I'm unboxing it and going, I don't have shelf space for that.
I like that you can now play with those in the dark. But you have no interest in the Cobra mothership that I sent you. That they're
no, that sucker failed miserably. Neat idea, but I am not a reaction fan of Super
Cobra
7's
mothership. What are you talking about?
So say Super 7, the same company that made that Snake Eyes and sleigh that you had gotten me, Chris,
Okay,
for a
yep,
birthday
yep,
present. All right.
yep.
So they made a Cobra mothership that's in the beginning of the regular cartoon series. Once it hits the
The
Pyramid of
big
Darkness.
snakehead ship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And well, they
How
didn't
big is
make it. It's huge. And they put it out there for one of these crowdfunding things, and
Yeah.
it did not even come close. It looked really neat, but it was way too much money for what it was, in my opinion, and just massive. I mean, you would have
Like,
to make a coffee table.
Could you
around
put
it.
figures in it? Like, was that?
Oh yeah, yeah. You could pull the tops off, put figures in it.
Wow.
It was an impressive playset. Don't get me wrong; it was really cool. Not a chance.
It's
just too big.
32-inch in diameter.
I
But
mean,
so they didn't get the funding to make it though.
no,
Okay.
no,
Not yet.
no.
mean, kind of
It
a-
ended. It ended the other
it is?
day. Yeah.
On a side note, I saw online today that Super 7 is going to be making some Sesame Street action figures.
They
Ah,
are. I'm looking forward to the
nice.
Yip Yip guys, and
Mhm.
and even though they'll be $20, I might try to keep my eye on for if they go clearance, because sometimes those reaction figures do, especially at Target. So if they hit like the $10 range, then I'd snag them up then.
You know,
The-
Shane.
the-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
The Yip Yips in the back, they have a little button, and they yip 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 yip.
Telephone.
Oh,
I was really amazed. I think it's Bert, Ernie, the Yip Yips, and
The Count.
I also see that this exists, and the child in me wants this so badly. They did a super
Well,
cover.
so who did that?
That is supposedly Super 7.
Because
Yeah.
I have the Palisade Super Grover
Uh-huh.
that came out. That was the only Sesame Street figure that actually did come out.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it is Super 7 branded on the
Okay.
package. So that's a thing that he says. They had a really nice display at both Toy Fair and New York Comic Con this year, Super 7. And I was able to see a whole bunch of their stuff up close. And they are very well made, but also, the price tags on some of that stuff is very, very high.
Speaking of price tags, Shane, I was in my LCS last week. They have G.I. Joe figures based on the cartoon. Have you seen these?
So
they're like,
those
they're
are
like $60.
Yeah, those are
Oh
Super
my
7.
God.
I have one of them, and I don't like the way it feels. The plastic feels like it could break at any moment if you put too much stress on it, and the arms don't move right. So yeah, they have some articulation in their elbows and wrist, but you can't do anything with it.
They're expensive.
Yeah, they were really expensive. So I kiboshed all of those.
Well, they look good. They look good in the box. So they
look
had,
great in
like,
the box.
The sheen of the animation.
Yeah.
Super
I
7
just
also
don't-
has some Ninja Turtle stuff and Transformer stuff that looks amazing.
Their turtle stuff is very popular.
Yes. Well, the turtle stuff, I mean, at least some of it looks just like the old Kenner stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that just makes me happy. So
Some guys like the real dolls to feel, and Shane likes the animated figures.
It
It doesn't feel right.
it really.
I was going to let that go.
So the ones that you're talking about, Chris, they've also not done so well that for store outlets. I mean, Super Sevens made their money. They were ordered by stores.
Yeah, but they're expensive. My God.
But there's a lot of stores clearancing them to like $10 and $15.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, the comic shop is not going to do that, but
right. But other online.
But they look like Destro, Cobra Commander, Flint. They all look great. If you love the cartoon version,
They look great inside the box.
that also leads me to something, is that just how high is your demand going to be for these things? I mean, we know that I mean, we've talked about this 800 times already, that these toys are being made for people our age, not for kids.
Of course.
But if the demand isn't there, then obviously what else are you going to do other than fire sale them?
You just had two announcements. One, Hasbro's laying off 1,100 people.
I saw that. Yep.
And two, Hasbro's made a deal with McFarlane to start producing Page Punchers mini figures with a comic of G.I. Joe and Transformers. And my opinion is they're starting to test the water to see if that does well, or at least McFarlane makes them well. I could see a real possibility down the road in the future where Hasbro really starts to just outsource toy making. It just holds the licenses and just doesn't want to be bothered with toy making for some reason.
Well, what I worry about is that 1,000 of those layoffs were in the Dungeons and Dragons division for Hasbro. And
is that what it was?
Yes, 1,000 layoffs in the Dungeons and Dragons division over at Hasbro, and Hasbro has had a nebulous lifespan with Dungeons and Dragons, especially like changes to the third-party licensing that were at first put forth, and then the backlash was so bad that they then reversed course entirely, because basically they were trying to put limits on the amount of money that third parties could make off of their own Dungeons and Dragons modules if they wanted to resell them. And they put out new terms. People did not like those new terms at all, and they had to basically reverse course on that. And that soured a whole bunch of people on D&D for a while. Not to mention that they're also trying to put out a new D&D 1 system, which is compatible with previous Dungeons and Dragons, but it's its own thing, and not everybody's been thrilled about that. It's been a weird year for Dungeons and Dragons, and I mean, the layoffs are a perfect example of that. Then again, layoffs are happening all over, and they always happen at every single company. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if they're doing bad, it's just, it's another.
I think they're doing. I think they're having poor decisions being made.
Yeah.
I have an article saved in the background that I wanted to read about the layoffs, because I didn't get to see what divisions or where it was. Because there was also, I forget how many people laid off earlier this year. So if you total it up, it's like 37 or so % of their workforce in the last year.
Yeah, they're closing an entire office. I know that. I think
up in Connecticut or
their Connecticut office. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway.
World of Toys.
Yeah. It's dicey these days.
Yeah.
And like you said, this stuff, I mean, I love it, but it has a shelf life for us people who are older. Young kids could care less about this stuff unless you're introducing it as your kid. But yeah, for the most part, the younger generations, they don't collect stuff like this.
Well, talking about collecting and talking about Dungeons and Dragons and talking about things like that, I'll mention, I know I mentioned on the show that I was going to be there, but I was in Philadelphia for PAX Unplugged over, I mean, it's hard to believe that it was a week ago now, but that was at the beginning of December, and I had a great time while I was there. I always make it an excuse to, try a cheesesteak I haven't tried and try a brewery that I haven't tried in Philadelphia every time I'm there. We went to, I think it was called Second Ward Brewery this time around. And it was on the subway line, so I was able to take the subway back to where we were in Center City, so that was pretty cool.
Nice.
And Woodrow's was where I went for my cheesesteak, which had it was a truffle whiz on the cheesesteak, which was very, very tasty. It was like the greatest merger between truffle mac and cheese and cheesesteak you could possibly have. So I was very much for that. But more for the nerd side of things, was able to meet up with our friend Jamie Hatton at one point while I was at
my man.
Saw pictures.
Yeah, he's doing great, and he was there for his own podcast, and also just walking around, just exploring and whatnot. Got to meet up with Brandon Christopher from Comic Timing, and longtime friend of CGS as well while I was there. And Chris roomed with me, and we met up with a bunch of other people. We were there, and if that is a sign of how it's thriving, then that is a very good sign, because they sold out of 3-day badges for PAX Unplugged this year. The past couple of years they had not. This time around, it was the most crowded I've seen it at the Philadelphia Convention Center in quite some time. It was still manageable, but it was a lot of people, and just there to enjoy board games, card games, tabletop games, you name it. Had a whole section devoted to Euro games and new games that were coming out that we could test on the floor itself, which was pretty cool. Had a wonderful experience and nerded out as usual. So those very, very good times. All right, Matt, what have you been up to since I'm sure you probably have the most to talk about out of all of us since you haven't been on in a while. So what's new comic reading, nerd reading? And I know you mentioned something else you wanted to mention media related. So by all means.
Well, I don't remember the media there, but the just with Monarch, I guess it's a great series.
There you go.
I think again, I'm not really into Godzilla and the Titans and stuff like that, but I think it's a great series. And one of the things that brought me in was Kurt Russell. and his son. Kurt Russell's one of my favorite actors to watch, and 9 times out of 10, if he's in something, his performance at least is good. I did want to say, I know when we got together at the beach, I had recommended Talkville, so I'm not sure if any of you guys are listening to that podcast. It's a rewatch.
I have it saved to queue, but I haven't listened to it yet.
It's a rewatch of Smallville with Michael Rosenbaum. And,
yes.
Tom Welling. Again, I recommend it. Recently, they were just finished season 3, but they had talked to John Schneider about the episode that he directed, and he had talked about there was things that weren't in the script that he wanted to. It's the episode where I think it's No Man, or somebody else gets power similar to Clark, and but doesn't have his weaknesses, and Clark winds up bleeding. And it wasn't in the script, but it was Schneider's idea to have him wrapped up in a red blanket because of the cape and certain other things like that. But then there was also a side thing that he had to shoot a conversation between Lex and Lionel, not in the same frame. And that's because it turned out that they were not available at the same time because they were working on the episode beforehand. And because of that, the creators basically said, you're not going to direct any more episodes. So he got pissed off at that. But one of the things that came out recently when they did an interview with the creators was it is confirmed they were toying with the idea that Chloe would become Lois Lane.
I heard that. Yeah.
That would have just been her pen name, and then eventually she would have just adopted that name, and that's what they would have done with.
Well, she had the character had the right personality for it. Certainly.
Yeah. Because I know for years that was always one of the theories out there, and that was one of the things that they came out with. Something that was interesting is the episode where Clark sees his mom because of the things that were going on in the episode, and they were talking about what was happening in that episode, and I guess that shot the person who was overseeing DC at the time, I forget who it was, but basically he said, you can't do this because of the potential movie that's coming out by McGee where Krypton doesn't explode. And they said basically it was a back and forth where we're arguing with you for your own history of this character for the last 70 something years, and you're telling us that doesn't mean anything because of a movie. So they had to fight to keep the continuity a part of his, but I think
that was the J.J. Abrams script where it was going to turn out that Lex Luthor was Zod or something like that. Like it was. I know that there was going to be like that Lex Luthor was going to be Kryptonian. I just forget whether or not it was going to be Zod or like one of the other known Kryptonians that we know.
That doesn't make it better.
But they do some good stuff. They do some interviews with some of the cast. They just finally got Sam Jones on, and they had commented early on how almost all of Pete's lines in the beginning were, "Damn, who's that?" So they made up shirts. That
nice.
So you know, some good stuff there. But kind of adjacent to that is Michael Rosenbaum also has a podcast, Inside of You.
Yep.
Yeah.
And recently, because I'm looking forward to Reacher season 2 that comes out tomorrow. He interviewed Alan, I think it's Richardson.
Oh, nice.
Who he had interviewed a year ago. And every once in a while, there's some interviews and I'm like, this was really good. And that was one that was very good last time, where he admitted that he got to a point where he almost hung himself.
Oh, wow.
And he suffers from bipolar, but he calls it unipolar and he goes on this good explanation of what his day's like and how there's certain key things that he sees that are signs that he's got to be on top of stuff because he could snap like that type of thing. And he kind of elaborates some more in this one. So that's another good podcast. Not all the interviews that Michael doesn't overly interested in, so I kind of skipped those, but his were definitely ones that are interesting. Kevin Conroy, he was on once, and he had some really good stuff. And I don't know if I discussed that on the podcast or with people off, but I guess he had a rocky relationship with his father, and I guess his father was basically abusive. And at the end, he was the only one of the siblings that was with his dad because he didn't want that on him, that he didn't try to make amends. And so in one of the recordings for Batman the Animated Series, I think it's the one where he's confronting his father, or his father says that, I'm a disappointment. But I guess when he was kind of going through that, he was tapping into his own experience. And he said it was the only time that Andrea Romano, said, let's pause and take a break, and just came into the booth and said, do you need a minute? Are you gonna be okay? So that argument. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. But I guess that's a long way of saying I'm looking forward to Reacher coming out, which is season 2, which should air tomorrow. So Monarch season 2 of Reacher, those are the ones I throw out there. I'm not really reading any comics at this time, but those are 2 series that I'm into and looking forward to.
Matt, on the Smallville rewatch, how do they talk about Allison Mack on that show?
So they'll talk. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that on top of that, I just finished watching The Vow. So Allison Mack has very much been on my mind. Hence why when you mentioned the whole, Lois Lane thing, and I saw that on Wine as well, I'm like, I think in retrospect, they're probably happy they didn't do that.
So they, in the Inside of You podcast, they've kind of talked about that a little bit, how that came completely out of the out of the blue. They didn't realize it. She just kind of, Michael said that she was younger, so she would hang out on her own. We didn't really interact, and there wasn't anything weird. So he was kind of surprised at what happened, but I think also kind of not, because she was kind of in her own thing. And I guess at one point she had Kristen Crick convinced to go, and something just seemed weird about it. And then she also talked to Laura, is it Vandervoot or Root?
Yeah,
played Supergirl. Yeah,
you're right. That she potentially would have gotten into as well, and things just don't work out. She did. But when they talk about the episodes, they'll talk about, hey, she did a good job, and like they won't talk about anything personal with her, but they'll say like, hey, they were trying to figure, was there any conversation in the scene about how it should be acted with Allison, or like, hey, she did a really good job in this scene, so that they just keep it to the performance there, and they don't get into anything. And I'm assuming she's not going to be one of the people they ever interview, because I think at this point they basically had everybody up to this point, all the main people in an interview at some point.
Right?
Is she still in prison?
No, I think she recently got out. I believe I believe on parole, or time served, or something along those lines. But yes, the other guy is in prison for life. So yeah.
Well, I watched HBO did a chilling documentary about
The Vow.
That whole. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's I forgot what it's called. I'm sorry. He belongs in prison for life.
Oh yeah. Have you seen the second season of that one, Chris?
I have not.
The second season actually goes through the trial process, and goes further into detail behind the scenes of the whole thing, and it's just a shame that and I'm trying to put this as delicately as possible, that organizations at time, it doesn't matter, even if at times they did good, a cult is a cult, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, that is what this organization was.
Oh, most definitely.
and the fact that it's in the Albany region, and I'm in the Albany region on a regular basis, like, it's so weird when I see like the train station shown or what have you. And I'm like, oh yeah, wow, I've been there plenty of times. So go figure.
Which is a callback. Read Batman the Cult. It's a really
great
good
story.
It's been years since I've read that.
Great story. That's Starlin, isn't it? Didn't Starlin write that?
I believe so.
Yeah, great story.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Excellent.
All right. Murd, let's head over to you. What you been up to? What you been reading?
Christmas time.
Work and very little. It's earlier in this episode, or maybe it was before we started recording, Chris asked Shane if he'd seen Rudolph yet this season. Well, I have watched Rudolph and I have watched Charlie Brown, and that's
Charlie Brown. I've watched that too. Yeah.
That's about it, honestly. I come back to the apartment after like an 11-hour day, and I just kind of slump and spoon feed my brain whatever the reruns of Cheers, basically, and game show. Yeah, that's. I said on the most recent Old Guard episode, I mentioned that I'm reading Sandman Mystery Theater, the first compendium. I got about halfway through the first annual in there. It's like the first 20 issues, and then the annual is reprinted, and that's the second time I've gotten about halfway through that annual before I start to droop, drop off to sleep, which is appropriate for reading Sandman.
What a great series.
Yep, I'm finding it so too, Chris.
I'm glad.
Prior to this, I've read the first arc, the Tarantula, like a couple of times over. This is the first time that I've actually gone beyond and read some of the later arcs. And
well,
yes,
the way they
better
develop
as it goes.
Yeah, and the way they develop his relationship with
Diane, yeah,
it's one of the most sophisticated relationships ever portrayed in a comic, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep, you've said that many times, Chris, and I'm feeling the truth of your words.
Yep, absolutely. Shane, what about you?
I've been weak on the reading too. I still have to read the first G.I. Joe issue that came out. I was busy. I started almost 2 years ago building the Lego 1989 Batmobile, and I finally dug it back out of mothballs on the desk and finished putting that together over the last couple weeks.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been pretty poor on reading myself.
All right. Well, I'll go into some of the stuff that I've been reading, and then I have a couple of watches that I'll mention as well that are definitely tangentially, if not entirely, comic book related. But so I'm a part of the Frog Pants community, which is Scott Johnson's podcasting network. The Morning Stream and Coverville and stuff like that are all associated with that, and they do a Secret Santa exchange every year. And this time around, I got something that's very relevant to this show, as it was nominated for 845 best ofs this last year. And that, of course, is Do a Powerbomb. Yep. Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson is a book that I was looking forward to reading in the first place, but it has gotten such great acclaim. And Daniel Warren Johnson is probably at this point one of my favorite, if not my favorite, artists out of nowhere. Because not only with the Wonder Woman stuff, like what he did with Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which was just light years above what others have been capable of in recent memory, but the panel detail that he's able to throw out there. Obviously, he's working on Transformers now. Over at Image with their stuff, but let me bring up a panel here of Do a Powerbomb so you can see what he's able to fit into each separate panel. But I'm about 3 issues into the trade paperback as of now. I believe it's 6 issues total in here, and if you have ever been a fan of wrestling in any way, or if you're just a fan of a battle manga or battle comics in any way, then this is going to be for you. The basic premise of it, and this is actually a good image to bring up if I can bring up a better copy than the one that I just found. But the basic premise of it is it starts out a few years prior, where Steel Rose, who is the Japan champion at the time, is taking on Cobra Soon in the ring. This is a female heavyweight champion taking on a male competitor in the ring for the belt. And a botch happens, and in the process, basically she winds up perishing. It's in the first issue, and it's barely like anywhere into it. We then flash forward a few years to her daughter trying to get into the world of wrestling, and when she does, she's being turned away by almost everybody because they all knew her mother, and they don't want her to go down a similar path, until she's found by this necromancer who teleports her into a separate reality. And he starts mentioning how he got into television. It was the best thing he's ever found, and he really fell in love with wrestling. So he's decided to make a cosmic tournament, a cosmic wrestling tournament, and he wants her in it with a tag team partner. It's a tag team tournament, and if they win the tournament, he will bring her mother back to life. And that is
there's got to be a catch to that, though.
Well, there always is, but that is the basic premise of Do a Powerbomb. And this deserves every bit of praise that it's gotten. The storytelling is terrific. The artwork is beyond superb. It's kinetic. The movement, the colors, the lettering, every single bit of it works. And it's just the perfect blend of wrestling, manga, and American comic books all in one package.
Wow.
Dan Warren Johnson is the man. and he talks about he wasn't even really into wrestling until he was trying to put his then like 6-month daughter to sleep, because after like 6 months of sleeping like a rock, suddenly she needed constant supervision in order to sleep. So like him and his wife would take turns watching after the baby, and when he would watch after the baby, he'd put on the TV, and he wound up putting on some Japanese wrestling and absolutely fell in love with the storylines and what was going on there, and that got him to decide that he was going to do what he did for rock and roll for one of his other books, do a Powerbomb. Read this book, period. It is absolutely worth checking out, whether you're into wrestling or not. Is a freaking gem.
I know what you're going to be nominating in the next CGS Awards.
I mean, as best collection, sure, because it already got nominated 800 times in 2023, so it doesn't need any further praise in that realm. But yeah, I very well may wind up nominating Volume 1 for that. Great stuff. The other thing that I've had a chance to finish was the new Ultimates miniseries that Jonathan Hickman was putting together. And I also read The Ultimate Universe, which is the follow-up that's now going to lead into what's to come with the Ultimate Universe. And I know I've talked about it a little bit on the show before, but Ultimate Invasion essentially focuses on the character of the Maker that existed in Marvel Comics for a while now, that started off in the Ultimate continuity as their Reed Richards. Horribly wrong, to say the least.
Yes.
A major villain. And finally, he breaks free of his prison and decides that he's going to find a reality that resembles his version of reality as much as possible, and then manipulate it to make it into something that he can forever control. And that's the premise of Ultimate Invasion. We get to the end of Ultimate Invasion, and some of the highlights of it that I can recommend, that I can mention, that aren't spoilers, they're more points. That reality's version of Reed Richards has essentially been turned into Doctor Doom thanks to the Maker. That reality's version of Reed Richards is walking around constantly wearing a mask. We don't know whether he's deformed. We're pretty sure it's just because the Maker didn't want to look at Reed Richards' face. And he forced him to wear a mask and be in his citadel of a timeless city in order to constantly work for him and better what he was trying to do as the Maker to keep this universe afloat. While at the same time, the Maker is dealing with that reality's version of Kang, which looks a bit familiar. That I will leave as a spoiler.
Beautiful artwork, by the way. Woo.
Oh, fantastic! It's Stefano Caselli, and that artwork is always great. This is actually the artwork of the Ultimate Universe one shot that just came out, which follows up the Ultimate Invasion. But we've now gotten to a point where, because the Maker is trapped within his own city, we're finally getting this universe to propel itself and try to become something after the Maker tried to stop all of their superheroes from becoming superheroes. Like, we're now going to get a Captain America. We have a Thor, as you can see in this image. That is why, as I said in the previous comic talk, that this reality Spider-Man is going to be a Peter Parker that is already a father and a husband. That he is first going to get bit by the radioactive spider as an adult, and we're going to see how that's going to change his Spider-Man.
Ian, is this is not the same alternate universe from before Secret Wars, correct?
No, this is not.
Okay.
This is a completely separate reality with a separate universe designation. It's like, rather than I forget what the other what was like 712 or something like that. This one is a completely different universe designation, but it had a similar path to where the Ultimate Universe was going to go, and that's why the Maker came in and screwed with it and made it into something that was closer to what he wanted. And now we're going to be getting stories in this as the new Ultimate Universe.
Gotcha.
And I'm really enjoying what we have so far. It's Hickman, so of course it's going to be, compelling. But this is a different Ultimate Universe with a similar feel to what we've gotten before. Howard Stark is Iron Man as a perfect example of one of the differences. Tony's still there. And we're first getting sort of a forming of what's going to be either the Ultimates or the Avengers in this post-Maker world in this Ultimate Universe one-shot. So well worth checking out if you have not already. One other comic that I had a chance to check out was issue 1 of Outsiders.
I read that as well.
Yep, over at DC Comics. And I'm just going to go outright and say it. It's called Outsiders, but it's planetary.
Mm-hmm.
And I am A-okay with that. This first issue sets up a very different Outsiders than we've ever gotten before. This is an Outsiders team that's making it their mission to kind of put right what once went wrong, but also like deal with multiversal incursions, deal with oddities and strangeness, everything outside the purview of your typical superhero is what the Outsiders will be dealing with. And by the time the first issue is over and done with, it very much drives home that it's going to be planetary when you literally see a book with planetary on it.
I took that to mean that it's going to tie into the original planetary series.
I believe it probably will.
That's how I took it.
I wouldn't be shocked, but also they might just be building their own right here, which would surprise me. It's put it this way, it's way better than when in the New 52 they tried to make a Stormwatch and it never felt like Stormwatch. Yeah. Not the fault of Paul Cornell. He did his best, but they tried to make Stormwatch superheroes when Stormwatch are not superheroes. The Outsiders that are presented here, this is not a superhero team. This is an investigation team. And I think they do a terrific job of setting things up. It's Lanzig and Kelly and Carrie, doing a story that I feel like they probably have always wanted to do, which is investigating secrets and making something that's not just your typical team. And I love that they got Batwoman as one of their key members of this, along with the Foxes, just to drive home, the Batman of it all without being Batman, and also just the investigation. It's a great first issue that just has me clamoring to read more. Stupendous start for the Outsiders.
Cool. I was curious about that. I might check it out when it hits the app.
I'm definitely getting it in trade.
Yep. The first issue is on. I don't know if you pay for DC Unlimited Plus or whatever. It's on there already. That's how I read it. So it's on the app now. I also want to mention Generation V on Amazon Prime, which is the Boys spinoff that just wrapped up a little while ago. In some ways, Gen V is even more insane and gross than the Boys. It's not quite there, but it has its own style and personality. Essentially, it's kind of almost like X-Men meets Teen Titans meets the Boys, because this is supposed to be your next generation of Vought. They're at a university in order to become the next Seven at some point. And this is all a super powered group. There's a invisible guy who keeps walking around, who keeps trying to spy on the women because, of course, shock of shocks. There's our main character in the show is a woman who manipulates her own blood in order to use it as a weapon. And her origin is as dark a X-Men origin as you could possibly get for developing a powers. And I'll leave it at that. It's a major oh crap when it does happen. Patrick Schwarzenegger plays one of the main characters in this that you think is going to be around way longer than he is. And by the time the first episode is over, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Clancy Brown plays a major part in this as one of the professors. Lizzie Broadway as Emma Meyer is, I think, one of my favorite characters. She's essentially like an Ant-Man type character, only the only way she's able to shrink or grow is by controlling her food consumption. So she literally has to purge in order to shrink, and she needs to eat in order to grow. So it, she's a college kid, so it's very much playing on that whole dynamic as well of, people who have to deal with eating disorders, but her eating disorder is also her power, which is the most messed up part of it all. And really, like, the whole story stems itself on that this university is not all that it seems to be, that there's definitely a more sinister aspect to it. And it ties itself into the main boys show in a lot of different ways, especially with some cameos here and there that, again, I will not give away for anybody who hasn't seen it, but great spinoff. It's going to have a season 2. And I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes, but I think they did a really good job of executing something that's different than the boys, but also similar, and hasn't turned me off to the boys yet, like the actual series the boys did after about 50 issues. So job well done on that. Finally, Invincible season 2. We're now 4 episodes into that. God damn, this animated series is fantastic. It captures everything I love about the comic, while also creating some new things along the way. Storylines have been changed and played out a little bit differently. Like, for instance, a lot of the stuff with Invincible's mom is happening in different order or different style than what happened before. We've now gotten a little bit further on Nolan and Omni-Man's life that we do get in the comics, but it's happening a little bit differently this time around. Alan the Alien continues to be one of my favorite characters, both in the comic and on the show. And there's been some great Alan episodes involved with that. And really just terrific adaptation of one of my favorite existing things, period. So if you haven't checked out Invincible, the series, yet, we're now 4 episodes into season 2. And the last 4 episodes are going to drop sometime in 2024. No specific date yet, but sometime in either January and February. And I saw The Boy and the Heron, Miyazaki's quite possible final film. It's good. I don't know if I could quite say that it's great. I think that it suffers a little bit from runtime. I think that if it had been longer and they had a chance to play out some of the storylines a little bit better, then I would have enjoyed it more. But it gets its point across well enough. It's a post-World War Japan where our lead has lost his mother, and he's basically trying to find his way in the world as his father winds up with if the story is telling itself correctly, with the sister of his mother, essentially, and they try to build a new family out of that. While at the same time, there's this mysterious house within the realm of and within the boundaries of where he's living, where he keeps seeing this heron disappear into. And he tries to make himself into there, and that's where the supernatural elements begin, and that's where a whole bunch of timey-wimeyness begins. There's a lot going on in this story. It's not my favorite Miyazaki, but it's far from my least favorite Miyazaki. I think that if you're looking for a good time, you'll find it in The Boy and the Heron. It's just, I think it could have used another 30 minutes to tell its story than what we got.
Ian, have you ever seen the anime film Grave of Fireflies?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about post-World War II,
yeah,
I was in tears by the end of that film.
This is not nearly as dark as that.
Yeah, that's a powerful piece of work.
Yeah. In fact, it's not even close to as dark as that. In fact, it's not nearly as nightmare-inducing as that one. But nonetheless, it still tells a very firm story. Just could have used a little bit more runtime, I think, at the end.
All right.
I think that's about it for me. So, Chris, over to you.
I'm going to start with a film, The Killer, Netflix, which I remember our founder, Brian Deemer, was proselytizing the graphic novels of a tremendous, I think it's French comic.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read all the translated volumes. It's a great book. And Deemer always sung its praise, and he's rarely off the mark, and he certainly wasn't here. And, it's about an assassin, a professional killer, and, his life and the impact it eventually has on his private life. And this is done by David Fincher. So right there, that's I'm in. Besides the fact that it's an adaptation of a book I greatly admire, and it's Fassbender in the lead role. This was superb. This was really well done. I thought it captured the sort of the I mean the book the story in the book is a lot longer. There's multiple volumes, but I thought it captured the feel of the character so well. His world, almost the entire story is voiceover of him thinking about what he's doing and how he does it. It's great acting by Fassbender. If you really enjoyed the book, I recommend this. If you haven't read the book, great example of just top-notch European comics. Which I'm in no way an expert on, but I know a damn good story, and The Killer's a damn good story. So that was really fun to watch. Now for books. Shane, I'm going to start with this for you.
Okay.
So
I have it on the top of my pile.
First issue. Then it says little words. 301st issue.
Yeah.
So this is the Hammock's been continuing this book. He went to Image, and it's been a couple different. Couple different companies. Now it's with Image again. And it's him continuing the story he began back in 1992 when we read issue when we did that G.I. Joe episode some while back. And I have not actually read his book since the Marvel series. It's okay because the way this is written, first of all, the artwork is by Chris Mooneyham.
The artwork
is tremendous.
Is really nice.
It's tremendous. But it's going home. It's all the great characters you love, as only Hammock can write them, because he basically created all of them. And there's obviously stuff that's been going on in the preceding years that I haven't read, but doesn't matter. It's very accessible. He brings you right in. I'm on board. So Shane, you especially, you will love this. Make sure you get it.
Looks great.
Yeah, no, the art by Mooneyham is really superb.
And that's some of my problem with some of the iterations of G.I. Joe is the covers look great, and you open up the book and it's just the artwork's fine.
Not
it's
here.
serviceable.
No, this is top notch.
This looks really good.
So I've been looking forward to this for some. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
Sure. I just had a quick. I know at some point they tried to make Cobra Commander, where it'd be almost like the Secret Empire, where the number one could change it. You don't know who it is, and I wasn't sure if Hammond. If Larry, I don't like messing up his last name, but if Larry is running with that, or he's keeping it the way it used to be, where Cobra Commander is the same guy.
I don't think we know that yet. I don't recall reading anything recently to say that it's just anybody filling the suit. But I don't know that
because I think it was like Chuckles killed him or something like that, and that's when you found out that they've been changing who.
Yeah. Something like that.
It's just a title. Was never really just one guy, which when I saw that, I was like, I really don't care for that. I like the idea that it was, aside from when they did that one storyline.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that it's always been that one guy.
Yeah.
As opposed to
that I can't answer. But
okay.
This issue was a great jump on point.
And we might know more about that come January, because there is a Cobra Commander issue or miniseries coming out I don't know if it's tying in with this or if it's going to start its own separate kind of universe in this Energon universe they're creating right now.
Okay. I've been looking forward to this for months.
Yeah.
So this is What If Dark, The Tomb of Dracula. What's important is that Marv Wolfman returns to write one of his greatest co-creations. Disappointing. So it was great to see Blade again as Wolfman writes him, and he brought back Quincy Harker and Rachel Van Helsing, all the characters I love from Tomb of Dracula. Artwork by David Cutler, I really enjoyed that. I found the story a little flat. Nothing. I mean, Wolfman's one of the all-time great masters, so no skin off his nose, of course. But it just here's a great here's they show you like the vampire hunters from the Bronze Age, and it was great to see all that, but it just lacked something. It wasn't bad. Like I didn't not enjoy reading it, but it didn't knock my socks off. I won't reread it. It just felt kind of like an echo. It wasn't what I was hoping for.
Sometimes you can't go home again.
You can't go home again. I've learned that lesson painfully many times in my life, Murd. So that's for sure.
Our artwork definitely lives up to expectations.
I like the artwork very much. Look, if you love the characters, I wouldn't say don't read it. Like I'm glad I did. It just didn't really leave me a strong impression on me.
Fair enough.
All right, that was serviceable, but
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yep.
Okay. I mentioned this before, but I want to mention it again because Ian has also praised it. The JMS Captain America is awesome.
Yeah.
It is absolutely outstanding. I mean, I didn't realize how much I missed his writing until I read this series. Because he's doing a great deep dive into the Steve Rogers past when he's before he gets the serum and he's a young man and what he's dealing with, and then they bring it into the present and they do a wonderful conceit in the third issue where they have panels where you have the past and the present happening at the same time. Like you see like him remembering things and they play it out for you. The artwork is beautiful by Jesus Saiz. This is a superb Captain America. It involves Steve as a young man in the 30s, and he's like trying to infiltrate like a Nazi Bund organization in New York City. This is outstanding Captain America, and it's just great to experience that again. So how much fun is this?
World's finest.
This is World's Finest.
I can't wait to read
number
that.
20.
That looks really good.
Return to Kingdom Come that I won't spoil.
Mm-hmm.
All I'll say is totally lives up to expectations.
Totally. Cannot wait.
It is. I just got I just have issue 21. I haven't read it yet, but the artwork is absolutely beautiful.
I'm gonna have some time to read on my hands the next week, as like my office is essentially shut down for the year because there's not a lot of shockingly there's not a lot of people running webcasts at the end of December. But I'm thinking of just sitting down and just reading through all the World's Finest I haven't read yet over the next week. Because
look at this page. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Continue.
I was done saying what I was saying. Go ahead.
So the Clark and Bruce of our world, all I'll say is they go into a store in this reality. Mm-hmm. Owned by Booster Gold.
Nice.
That exploits like all the different DC properties. This is great. Like I haven't read World's Finest consistently. I've read the first arc or two and I'm kind of in and out, but I'm on board for this whole run. Like this is wonderful. So Murd, you're going to especially love this, I think.
No doubt I will. I mean,
really
you
good,
mentioned
really
a
good.
Store owned by Booster Gold. That sounds a lot like the Planet Krypton restaurant, which is the setting for one of the best comics that Pants and I have ever read. So, what does he call it? Forever 52?
I don't remember what the title of it is, but it's weighed, so every detail is just unmatched. Then there's this.
In my head though now, Murd, it's called Forever 52. That is an excellent.
It's a great title. So the Ash Can of Animal Pound. It's Tom King, illustrated by Peter Gross. So this is his version of Animal Farm, but it's dogs and cats and rabbits in a pound. And the Ash Can sets up the story wonderfully. I'm all in on the whole thing. I mean, I love Animal Farm. I love George Orwell. And what I especially want to emphasize, King has a great essay in the back of the Ash Can, where he talks about the inspiration of Animal Farm and you know how it's an allegory, of course, for the Russian Revolution and the Bolshevism and so forth. And I just have to read. I'm really impressed with Tom here. He writes here. 80 years later, Animal Farm is a classic embedded in the consciousness of the Western world. It is, however, and unfortunately, not the warning it once was. For today's threat of fascism doesn't come from the ideals of the left looking forward, but from the right looking back. Tom, well done. So look at that cover. And like the way he because he goes in the heads of the dogs, and I mean I dearly love my dog. And he describes things dogs do, like scratching on your door, which my dog does all the time. But the way he describes it from the perspective of the dog and how it's not the cute thing you see it as. This is haunting. Like this is really well done. I can't wait to read the ongoing series. I mean, it's Tom King, one of the best writers in comics, riffing on one of the most important novels of the 20th century. So there you go.
Enough said.
Ian, I just love you, buddy.
Yeah.
I got She-Hulk here, Volume 3, Rainbow Rowell. Consistently one of the best series Marvel is producing today.
Amen to that.
The charm, the heart. She so gets Jen. Like I think this is such a wonderful characterization of that of her. And you can't have She-Hulk without some of the quirky humor, which is here in spades, but there's also heartbreak. They really explore her relationship with different characters really well, expertly. This is Ian, I can't thank you enough for recommending this. This is a great series.
Oh, it's terrific. It's by far. I mean, we've said it multiple times already. It's by far the best She-Hulk since Dan Slott's run. No question about it. And in some ways, it even eclipses it, just because. While Dan had his own personality, so does Rainbow, and like they're
absolutely
they're their own distinct thing in the end. So yeah, very, very happy this exists.
And now they just relaunched a new volume, correct? Where that she's still writing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have to read that.
Yep. While you mentioned She-Hulk, by the way, you also reminded me that I read the first. I jumped ahead just because I wanted to see what it was like. I read the first Gang War issue of Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, how was that?
I actually really liked it.
I haven't read it yet.
And it has in it She-Hulk. It has Elektra, Daredevil, and it has Miles, basically setting up their own tie-ins while also dealing with, Mayor Luke Cage. Because that's a thing, baby, and easily the best mayor that New York City universe has had for a while. They've had J. Jonah Jameson. They've had the Kingpin. I think they're much better off with Luke Cage.
I would think so.
Yeah, but there's gang wars breaking out all over the place because of turmoil that's breaking out in the streets. All while at the same time, both heroes and villains are trying to get it under control. Wells plays with the same characters that he's already been working with. We do get the female version of
daughter of Tombstone.
Yes, Tombstone's daughter.
Yeah.
She's
she's the Beetle.
Beetle. Thank you.
Right, yeah.
While Tombstone is in the hospital, she's trying to keep Tombstone's turf in check, and at the same time, then when Tombstone gets out, there's a battle between: am I doing what you're doing, or am I doing what I'm doing? Are you going to allow me to be my own person? And that plays itself out. It's terrific John Romita Jr. artwork, and this is where Zeb Wells excels. In his writing is when he is doing something that's a little bit more grounded. And this is quite frankly all the gangs in New York battling each other for supremacy. I'm liking where it's going in this first issue.
All right.
Very, very happy with it.
I dumped Spider-Man after that ridiculous death issue, but I've always loved the gang war concept. So I do have the first issue coming. So I'll give it a shot. So I have to mention every month because I think it's one of the best comics being produced today, which again is Conan the Barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, Roberto de la Torre did the first 4 issues Artist of the Year for me. They bring in for the next issue. This is Doug Braithwaite. Look at this artwork. Look at this.
So good.
This comic is next level stuff. Like this is. I mean, I've always casually enjoyed Conan throughout my reading life. This is the culmination of everything that makes Conan great. The stories are the layers involved. I mean, they really explore the character, but they don't shy away from the violence of the character. But the artwork they have in this book is, look at that. Like, it is just stunning.
Yeah.
Again, Jim Zub's writing, like, and a lot of caption boxes, which I really miss in comics.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first book I read when I get my hands on it of any pile I have. Like, it's that good. So I can't recommend that enough. Now let's go to some trades. All right. Murd can attest to the fact that a loyal listener came to his store down the shore. Mr. Nathan Z. Tilwalk. I hope I pronounced that correctly, sir. And donated to the show, The Death of the New Gods.
Nice.
And I volunteered to read it first. So I don't know how the hell I missed this because I had my shop when this came out. Mm-hmm. Jim Starlin wrote and penciled this book, and I never read it.
Yep.
Which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
So Nathan, thanks so much. I really enjoyed this. I think the New Gods are alive again. I assume that they are.
Yes.
Right.
They never stay dead for long.
Yeah. So this is the pre New 52 DC universe.
Yeah.
And look, it's look at Starlin drawing Darkseid, right? Like it's stunning. So it's a great whodunit because there's a mystery, like all the new gods are dying, who's killing them. They really explore the consequences of that, and it really focuses also on Superman and how we don't always see this, but how intuitive and smart Superman is, because he's essentially leading the investigation.
Yeah.
Gripping story, could barely put it down. It's Starlin, right? So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shane. I'm sorry.
What's that date on the cover? 97?
2007.
2007.
2007, 2008. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Has anybody read this before?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't believe I missed this.
I read it as it was coming out. It didn't compel me the way that it compelled you, but it was solid storytelling at the time. And like you said, it's Starlin. So, if you're a fan of Jim Starlin, you're going to be a fan of this. I think at the time we had just come off the Ranthanagar War, if I remember correctly, around the time that Death of the New Gods came out. So I was kind of like cosmicked out a little bit, and I'd be curious how I'd look at it now with new eyes.
It's funny you mention that, Ian, because I'm glad that I read this in one, like 2 sittings in the trade, because I really enjoyed sort of the overall tapestry he's creating with the story.
Yeah,
he explores the source, the wall, like all the different facets of the new gods, and like writes a moving essay in the front where, of course, it makes tribute to Kirby. I thought it was excellent. I really enjoyed it, and again, Nathan, thanks so much for donating this for us to read. It was really worth my time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Couple more. Shane, this one's for you. This is awesome.
Oh, nice.
Star Trek Year 5, nice.
Star Trek Year 5. So
I didn't get that yet.
Yeah, I've been singing the praises of Kelly and Lansing on this show quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they describe themselves as the showrunners. So first of all, this is a beautiful collection, like just this production here. So this is the first 7 issues of Year 5. We've been praising the covers of this comic and previews for years, basically. And to finally read, I've read the first 2 issues. This is Star Trek. Like if you love Star Trek, especially the original show, this is what this is. I was just, the grin on my face as I was reading this book. I mean, just ear to ear. I mean, it's like I became the Joker for a second. Like it was. Shane, especially, you have to read these stories.
Nice.
Because it is, they really, in the introductory essay, they talk about how they get to all the creators, because but like they have really good people working on this book. Like Jody Hauser writes an issue, Lansing and Kelly write most of them, but it's excellent. What I've read so far, and they just, again, just like with the new Star Trek comics we're reading now that we've talked about so many times in the air, they just understand the characters, they know their voices, how they interact with each other. It's superb.
Yeah.
Any Star Trek fan, you got to read these stories, especially if you love the original series.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't steer me wrong on the new Star Trek series in the Defiance, so I'll
Fantastic.
look forward to picking that up.
Last 2 things I'll mention. I have come to love my gallery editions.
Oh, wow.
So I got this a long time ago, but I kept forgetting to mention on the air because I read it earlier in the year. One of my all-time favorite Spider-Man stories, Spider-Man Blue, in this incredible, gorgeous edition. I mean, this is a story I think we should discuss at length at some point on the air, because I think it's such an incredible tribute to the Silver Age, as only Mark Waid and Tim Sale can do it. But just look at the way this is done in this edition. Like, it is absolutely stunning artwork. I mean, we knew that, but in the gallery edition, my LCS has a new gallery edition of Daredevil Yellow. I'm treating myself for Christmas and buying it because
nice.
I love this package. I also ordered, they're doing Daredevil Born Again in the gallery edition as well. But have any guys read Spider-Man Blue?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, years ago.
It's anyone who loves the Silver Age of Spider-Man, this is such a wonderful love letter to it. It's so well done.
I've read Gray and I've read Blue. So I read Hulk Gray, and Spider-Man Blue. Yep.
Daredevil Yellow is tremendous too. So I'll talk about now. And then there was this. So we were talking earlier about the Kree Skrull War, and I picked this up whenever it came out, and I finally sat down just over the Thanksgiving weekend to read it. I haven't read the Kree Skrull War in years. And it's such a foundational story in the whole Marvel mythos. And to read it in this format, after not having read it in so many years, let me just go to, I think, what is probably one of the most famous pages in the entire, because Sal Buscema starts drawing it. It's Roy Thomas scripting, and then Neil Adams takes over. And I love Sal Buscema. I've always loved his work in all the books he's done. But when Adams comes in, like, again, here's the Ant-Man going into the visions. Like, look at this production.
Wow.
This is stunning. Like the gallery edition format, the remastering, the way they restored everything is so beautiful. And to see the whole, Hank going into the Vision's body, that famous sequence. And you forget how important the story is to Marvel's entire history and continuity, essentially, including with the great throwaway panel when Hank says he's in the Vision. He goes, "Wait, what's that?" And they don't return to it. And then you realize later he's realized that he found out that, I think, Wonder Man was taken from the Vision's right word. Wasn't Wonder Man based on the Vision or vice versa?
Yes. So, the Vision was based on the brain patterns of Simon Williams. Yeah.
And I think that throwaway panel is when Hank discovers that. But this was absolutely thrilling to read. And let me tell you, it holds up really well. I think it's one of the best things Roy Thomas wrote. And again, he did a legendary run of the Avengers, and this is like the culmination of that. But just the cosmic drama, all the different characters are involved, the Adams just drawing these incredible cosmic scenes, Krull space armadas, and it is absolutely thrilling on every level. And I can't hear. This is probably one of the most famous splash pages from the whole series. Triton coming out of the water, clutching the dock. Look at that remastering, though. God.
Yeah.
So they don't make them like that anymore, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that was supposed to be the jumping or the originating for the Illuminati, correct?
It became
yes. Yeah, they retcon that later. Yeah,
right. But in Bendis's retcon, it was the aftermath of the Kree Skrull War that made all these powerful figures want to get together and form
to safeguard the Earth in the future. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Chris. Did you say you reread it in that format, or you were just looking through the pages?
No, I haven't read the story in years, and I reread it in this format. Yeah, in the gallery edition.
Do you think about the fact that this is supposed to start why they formed the Illuminati, or you don't even?
Madam, until you mentioned that, I hadn't even thought about that.
I was wondering if knowing that, reading through that, if that changes anything as you're going along.
No, because I was so reveling in this because I hadn't read it in years, and it's so good. And I just think it's at a point where these creators are like at the peak of their powers, basically. Like Thomas has been writing Avengers for quite a few years. He and Adams have worked together on their great short but great X-Men run in the Silver Age, and they worked together on this. And Sal Buscema, no slouch. John Buscema comes and he does part of it. He's one of the great masters. Anyone who loves Marvel and Marvel history, this is an essential story you have to read.
Oh, of course.
And it's no better format than this gallery edition. Breathtaking. Gentlemen, that's what I got for this week, or this month, I should say.
Fantastic. I want to close things off with something that I almost forgot to mention. And if I wasn't going to mention it, I'd be very, very upset. And that, of course, is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Now, I'm a huge Scott Pilgrim fan. I think the movie is honestly one of my favorite movies, period. I've seen it I've seen it about 4 times now. I got the pleasure of seeing it at a converted Jewish theater in the Village of New York with Edgar Wright and a bunch of the cast members about 5 years after it came out, and that was fantastic. But I also love the original comic book, and I've read the entire thing, and I own pieces of it. I still need to finish collecting it, or I might just sell off my entire thing and then buy this new box set that's going to be coming out soon. But when Scott Pilgrim Takes Off got announced, I thought it was going to be a straight adaptation, and that's what they were painting it to be. And then the series actually was released, and I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but this is entirely its own thing. You know how sometimes something is a remake and a sequel? This is That is exactly what Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is. It is a remake and a sequel at the same time. And the way they execute it, not only is it beautifully animated, but they get back the entire cast from the original movie, plus a couple of new people here and there to fill in gaps and roles, and just create this compelling story that is just as compelling, if not even more so, than the original material itself. I haven't loved an anime this much, and I can't tell you as long. And it just blew my socks off as a fan of the original source material and the fan of the movie and just a fan of Brian Lee O'Malley in general. Yeah, if you are interested in Scott Pilgrim at all, you have to watch Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I'd say even if you've only watched the movie, or if you just want to rewatch the movie just to keep it, fresh in your mind, you could even just do that if you haven't read the comic. But read the comic too if you haven't. But I'd say as long as you're familiar with the movie, you'll be able to watch Scott Pilgrim Takes Off and love it. And even if you're not, you probably would still just enjoy it anyway. So had to make sure that I mentioned that on the show.
All right.
Yeah.
Damn good stuff. Damn good stuff. Yes, I know it's only available on Netflix. Sorry, Murd.
It's all right.
All right.
I think we've shot our bolt, gentlemen.
Indeed. What were you going to say, Matt?
I was gonna say, don't they have some deal worked out with Max? What's their talks about merging that as a service?
No.
I haven't heard about merging it, but I know that they have a lot of Max stuff, PC related, coming over.
Netflix, I thought Netflix was pairing up with somebody else so they could have kind of a joint service. And
No, they Max licensed a bunch of their stuff though, and a decent amount of it showed up on Netflix and other services. Which also reminds me, because 'tis the season, Merry Little Batman on Amazon Prime. Talk about something that Max gave up. If you have not watched Merry Little Batman on Amazon Prime, it's like a 90-minute movie. It's absolutely adorable. It's the story of a young Damian Wayne when Bruce goes off to deal with a Justice League matter and doesn't come back. Young Damian winds up putting on a bat suit and running around trying to save the day, all while Bruce is trying to get himself back to it. Luke Wilson is the voice of Batman in this. James Cromwell is the voice of Alfred Pennyworth.
Great.
And it's done by a writer of Regular Show and a bunch of other things, and it's got a very unique art style to it that just makes it its own. And this is going to be a regular holiday watch for me.
All right,
moving forward, it is very much a Christmas movie in all the right ways, but also feels like Batman, and it's its own thing. So, speaking of Max things that have gone elsewhere, Merry Little Batman is one of those ones that you should check out if you're in the holiday spirit and you're also in the Batman spirit.
When I saw that, and I thought, I looked at the time, like 90 minutes, I'm like, holy cow, I got to block some time off for that.
It's well worth it though, Shane. You're gonna love it.
Okay.
Knowing your sensibilities and your it's all about family, Fast and the Furious style, like this, that you are going to love Merry Little Batman. Definitely. All right, gentlemen, I think that is that. Well
done, brethren.
This will be coming out the week right before Christmas, so a happy and a healthy to everybody who is celebrating. Hope you guys have a wonderful extended holiday season, Christmas, New Year's, otherwise enjoy it. Those of you who just celebrated Hanukkah, shalom.
Yeah.
And that's that. Let's be merry and let's enjoy.
Indeed.
Festivus for the rest of us.
Yes, indeed. Festivus for the rest of us. Damn Skippy, Matt. Damn Skippy. And Matt, thank you for being festive in that hat the entire time. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
Aaron
Thanks for having
Close
me.
is coming to town.
Excellent. Alrighty. As usual, once again, we're sponsored by you at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. And we thank you so much for all that continued support that you give. It is a season for giving, but if for some reason you are unavailable to give, just tell somebody else about the show. Leave an iTunes review, participate on the super group, whatever you can, just to let us know you're there. That's all that really matters to us the most. But those of you who do give, we really do appreciate it. patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. All right. And Shane, over to you, my friend.
Yes.
Okey-doke. Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com. Send us an email. The address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com. Look us up on YouTube at youtube.com/comicgeekspeak. Send in your Muddle the Murds because we only got 5 and we need some more. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Thanks to everyone, as Ian says. We appreciate it. Have a happy, merry, and I think that's it. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
Mightiest listeners, one hero at a time.
One.
You got it on Wednesday, and you was psyched about it going to the Powerbomb. These guys will talk about it, everything the geeks love. From cakes and laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek speak, comic geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is Comic Geek Speak.
And to all, a good night.